Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? My name is Ken M. Joining me for this illustrious panel, you know him. He is the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us on panel, you know him as your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
What is going on, everybody?
How was everybody's week?
Not bad.
Hanging in there.
We got a couple sports stories to talk about with you, so definitely join in at home, ODPH Society, or wherever you're listening to us from. And you can always do that on OchoDuroParlayHour.com. It'll take you to all the social media links, so Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And always remember, use the hashtag ODPH to join in the conversation. So let us kick off with what I will say is the biggest news story of the week for sports, and that is the return of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Pad, you are our baseball connoisseur, our guru, if you will. So
How dare you, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. If we're talking lacrosse, I definitely passed the mic to you,
How
my friend.
dare you not give me credit for knowing baseball?
Oh, we'll get to that in just a second. But, Pad, why don't you give us an early preview here of how the season's been?
Yeah, so of course, as everyone knows, baseball a little tumultuous. Off season, will they play? Won't they play? They finally, smooth things out. Hopefully, there is still a CBA coming down the road, so we'll see. We could just be repeating this in a couple years. But no, they got everything hammered out. They had summer camp, and I'm sorry, I know some people want to call it spring training 2.0, but summer camp is better. They got the season started, and things are going pretty good. A lot of interesting stuff going on. Personal favorites of yours and mine, Ken. Boston's in last place in the American League East.
Yes, it's a good time as a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
They are 1-3. Houston begrudgingly is 3-1, although they are getting hit.
1-3. They out of it. Then there's no chance of a comeback.
Yes.
Oh, preach it, Coach. Preach it.
62 games left in the season. Ain't no way you coming down from a 1-3 deficit.
Something like that. Houston begrudgingly is in first place, although I will say they are getting hit. That's to be expected.
Peg them all.
Justin Verlander has been shut down for the immediate future. It's kind of up in the air what's going on with him. All we know is it's a forearm issue.
That was a funny one because I saw the tweet that said he was out for the season.
Yeah,
he was
I saw that
like,
too.
not so fast, my friend.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is not to play Schoolhouse Rock here, but when you're talking forearm and tendons, that's usually the ligaments around your elbow, which usually mean you need Tommy John surgery. So I'm not one to connect the dots, but hey,
2 + 2 does equal 4.
Yeah.
Looking out at other things, just some notable things. You got the Chicago Cubs in first place. The Miami Marlins are in first place, although we'll get to that in a minute. San Diego Padres, surprisingly, are in first place at 3-1. So things are looking pretty good, Glad to see the games back. It was cool to see what various teams were doing to make it look at least as real as possible. I know when watching the Yankee games, they had sound recordings that they were whoever was in charge of the sound recordings, hats off to you, sir or madam. You were real on top of things because while watching the Yankee game, if at one point, I forget who was pitching, one of the Yankees guys went to throw to first base to check the runner. And they had a boo sound effect queued right up and were ready to go. So they were real on top of things. That was awesome. Got to say, not a fan of Fox Sports virtual fans that they were putting in there for the national broadcast games.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
That was weird. And it's one of those things, if it was there the whole time, okay, I get used to it at some point. But when it's on a home run or a fly ball to the outfield and they kind of fill themselves in, that's just weird.
Yeah, from a production standpoint, that is definitely different now. Coach, have you seen any of these games, really?
I have not, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I'll have to send you a video, but
Okay.
It's Fox Sports National, so it's not any of the regional Fox Sports. But
Okay.
the nationally broadcasted games, they're filling, and it's almost like any of the video games that are out where you've got 4 people doing 4 different moves, and it's all the same stuff, just different color.
Oh, it's brutal.
Oh yeah, it's rough. So it's on national broadcast games, and they're wearing team colors for whoever the home team is, and it just looks really, really weird.
Okay, I believe you.
And I got to say, I got to give credit to all of the broadcasters because just some of the lengths they are going to broadcast these games. Because I know Saturday the Yankees and the Yankees and Nationals game was on Fox. You had Joe Buck in Colorado someplace. Then you had John Smoltz in New York at Major League Baseball Network studios. You had Ken Rosenthal in the stadium doing his duties, and then you had the production truck I don't know, like a block or two away from the actual stadium. So just the lengths they're going to are just absolutely crazy to see. But it's cool to see them taking the right precautions.
Well, you have to applaud them for trying to be as safe as possible. Obviously, with everything going on with COVID and this quote-unquote new normal, I hate using that term, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Baseball has tried making the best of the bad situation. We're still getting the games. It is a different experience. I will agree with Pat, the digital fans, it does take a little while getting used to see them appear on screen. I'm not a big fan of that.
No.
But it is what it is. But for the games, we are getting our baseball. The Yankees are looking good out of the gate.
Yeah.
And, Boston is not doing well. So as a Yankee fan, I'm extremely happy about that.
This is true.
And then Houston is getting well received by the other teams in the Major League Baseball games.
Yeah, I did. I mentioned last week I would check out the MLB cheer thing. I did check that out. When I used the MLB app, there was a little thing that popped up, and basically, if the stadium supports it, not all stadiums support it quite yet, but you can go into the game, you can pick who you're rooting for, and it gives you this little like back and forth meter that's like however many fans are in there supporting the team. It moves percentages, and then if you cheer them, the icon for cheering, I think it's like a thumbs up or something, goes up on the screen, so you can see in real time. Just the more you see more cheers, a lot of people are cheering. I gotta try it out when it's on, because I did it obviously with the Astros and I was booing incessantly.
I can imagine the data plan was going up that night.
Yeah, but I gotta try see if it's installed at Yankee Stadium and try it on when Yes Network is broadcasting, just because I got to see how it works in relation to actually watching a game I can see.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot of new interactive options they're trying to give fans. Which, like I say, if you can't make it to the ball game, they are trying to make it something. Now that we've gone past all the drama about everybody arguing about money, the safety protocols are in place, but we're going to get right in that because we cannot escape that story in a sec. But for the presentation of the game on the field, it hasn't been the worst.
No.
It does take a little while to get used to.
Yeah.
And if this is what we have to do to get a baseball season in, so be it. But we can't deny the biggest story going on with baseball right now, unfortunately, is not the games.
Yeah, no, it's not. So I want to say it was either Sunday night or early Monday morning. Because I started seeing stuff before it hit, big press. It came out Monday morning, nonetheless, that a bunch, I don't have the exact number in front of me, of the Miami Marlins players and coaches had tested positive for C-19.
14, I think the number was? 12 players, 2 coaches?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, and I think everyone, baseball fans and writers and coaches and front office staff knew this was going to come at some point. Just nobody thought it'd be after one weekend. So then the kind of question became, all right, what's going to happen? So what happened in the time since then, the Marlins were in Philly for 3 games. They played those games. Like I told you, they are, they're in first place. They are 2-1. So they were in Philly for 3 games. To my knowledge, they hunkered down in their hotel. They did not leave. And then the immediate thing became, okay, well, the Marlins were just there for 3 games. You've got 14 players testing positive. The Yankees are supposed to be coming there. So what's going to happen with this? Marley Rivera of ESPN at one point had reported that the Phillies had told the Yankees that the visiting clubhouse had been fumigated several times. Not sure what that does for C-19 and how you get it and what it does, but I'm no scientist. I'm no expert. So who knows? Maybe it does something. And at one point, the Yankees had said before the game was postponed that if the game went on, they would bring their own staff down to the stadium to staff the visiting clubhouse themselves so that nobody who could have possibly been infected would be in with the team. Regardless, out of an abundance of caution, because the Phillies players were tested that day, the game was postponed. The Yankees were supposed to play 2 games in Philly and then 2 games in New York. Against each other. The game on Monday was postponed out of an abundance of caution. The Phillies were tested. They did drive-through testing at Citizens Bank Park. Those tests came back today. They are all negative.
Okay.
So none of the Phillies are infected, although the thing to bear in mind is, as we know, incubation time on this is 14 days. So they don't have it now, and I read they were tested again today. So we'll see what happens, tomorrow or the day after, but they're going to have to keep getting tested. So the game yesterday and the game tonight were postponed, as were the Marlins. Were supposed to have a home opener against the Orioles. They were supposed to play, I think it was much the same as the Yankees, 2 games in Florida, 2 games in Baltimore. Those got postponed. The games with the Yankees in Phillies and New York got postponed. As we record, we do know that, as we said, the Phillies have tested positive thus far, or tested negative thus far. They're being tested again. No other tests in Major League Baseball outside of the Marlins that have been done since Friday have come back positive. So everything else outside of the Marlins has come back negative. And in the meantime, Marlins season is postponed through Sunday. They're going to quarantine, and just so they can focus on the players and get everybody healthy. I have heard it discussed because they are carrying 60 players on the active roster, I guess you could say. It's just, you've got 30 in the with them, and then 30 in an alternate training site. There has been talk that if they need to, they will bring in some of those players to fill in holes, and there has been talk of even signing free agents to plug those holes if need be when and if they are able to return. And I also know the Phillies season has been postponed through Friday, again, out of an abundance of caution, just to make sure everyone is fine and okay. As for the Yankees, they are off tonight. Their games will be made up with the Phillies at a later date. And if they don't make them up, Buster Olney or somebody I know suggested it, they could just do like in 1981 when they had the strike shortened season and just go by win percentage. Like if you can't make up a game just because of the shortened schedule and not enough time, just go by win percentage. They did it. They've done it in the past.
I think they're going to have to.
They might have to.
They don't have an option at this point.
Yeah, but so the Yankees games against the Phillies will be possibly made up at a later date. The Yankees, from what General Manager Brian Cashman said in a Zoom conference with reporters today, they were about to send all of the equipment from Philly, because the Yankees this whole time have been hunkered down in their Philly hotel. Mm-hmm. They went from Washington right to Philly. They were about to send all their equipment back to New York when the option for Baltimore came on the table, and they pulled the players, and the players basically unanimously said, tell us where and we'll play. So the option for Baltimore came up. They're going to play, what is it? What's today? Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday as we record.
They're going to play Wednesday and Thursday in Baltimore.
Coach, your thoughts on this development?
If this costs us the NFL season, I will be furious. This was, so again, we talked about, and to get your shot glasses out early because I'm bringing it up sooner than later, the PLL, the Premier Lacrosse League, how they were able to bubble their players. Now, obviously, roster sizes and accommodations and all those things are a factor, and the NBA is the same way. The smartest and safest thing to do is put your players in some sort of confined bubble space where you are in direct control of who they're in contact with, who are, where they are going and where they are coming from. Because at the end of the day with the MLB, you have a travel size roster of 30-ish guys.
30-ish guys, and that's before you get to all the coaches.
Yeah,
right.
You're looking at roughly around 60, 70
So
people.
you're looking at, that, number of people that it's impossible to be able to hold them all accountable and to be able to keep an eye on that many people. I mean, especially when you're talking about travel, food, and all this stuff.
Right.
So, it was only a matter of time.
Yeah.
And the NFL needs to take notice of this, because if they're looking at potentially as well the travel to and from games and everything, you have to control what these players are doing. And, I mean, you saw in the NBA, Lou Williams broke the bubble. Now he's locked in a quarantine right now
that's a weird situation.
3 days because he went to get, chicken wings at a strip club, which apparently have the best chicken wings in the world.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Johnny Manziel was even saying this.
Johnny Manziel said that they were the best chicken wings he's ever had. So, again, though, I mean, with in the situation with the NBA and the PLL, though, they're able to hold and keep these players accountable. On the flip side of this, the MLL, and, I'll talk about this in Rounding the Bases a little bit more, they had 4 players break quarantine, and 6 of them then came back tested positive for COVID, which ruined a good semifinal on Saturday and an inevitable championship game that was played on Sunday. So, just leaving it up to the players to their own devices obviously is not the right condition, because people are people and humans are humans. And just like we're seeing now, they itch for social interaction, and, you go town to town, travel, you have your spots that you like to hit up. Sure, if you go to hit up that spot, who do you don't know who's in that place. And I mean, as a professional athlete, we talk about like how, quote unquote, the role models and all that stuff. Like as a professional, and your body's your temple, like as a professional athlete, like you have to be mindful of the fact that you are your investment. And if you go to one of these establishments and you're acting a fool, whether it's, not wearing a mask or not social distancing or what have you, that's on you. And what happens is this result here with the Marlins. Now, we don't know where it could have came from.
Yeah.
Could it have been from the airport that they were traveling? Could it have been, maybe from the staff itself? You don't know because they haven't said. But, there is that concern that travel is it's an uncertainty. It's the one thing, it's a variable. You cannot control that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It works for the NBA because, like you said, they have a smaller roster size. Major League Baseball, if I did my math right, you're looking at like to do a host city, you would need to find hotel rooms for roughly 1,900 people. And unless you're doing it in a major city, that's going to be real hard to do. The other thing I would say is it's relatively easy for the NHL and NBA. They're not trying to do a full season. They're essentially trying to wrap up their regular season, get into the playoffs, and then go. So you're going to have some of these teams like the Washington Wizards or pick some other bottom of the conference team that I don't know how long the season in the NBA goes. So random.
They're only playing 2 weeks.
So in 3 weeks when this postseason starts, you're going to have some teams gone in 3 weeks.
Right.
So that works perfectly fine for them because, hey, we're here for a cup of coffee and then we're heading home. They're not hanging around. For Major League Baseball, they're running through the end of September. They're running basically a regular schedule, just shortened. They're still going to get done in theory if the season progresses by the regular time. So you're meaning to tell me that you got to find a host city that's able to hold 1,900, 2,000 plus people for the next 4 months? Like, that's real hard, even if it's New York.
Yeah. In fact, I even got to correct myself because when I said 60, 70, I was thinking NFL roster. So for baseball, so I got to correct that because baseball, we got to say, is what, 30-man roster plus your coaches.
30-man roster that they're traveling with.
Right.
Plus their coaches.
Plus coaches. So we're looking, what, 45 people maybe?
At least 45, 50.
I'll say 45, 50. So the NFL, I know, is definitely rolling more.
Sure, they probably have some team, not
Doctors,
golfers,
yeah.
but doctors
Yeah.
and probably some
Yeah.
team like,
Yeah.
golfers, I guess we'll use. I mean, people to go out and get stuff for players if they need it and
Right.
stuff.
So-
training staff, I guess you
Yeah.
can call it.
So we'll say, we'll just cap it off at 50. So for a 50-person team to go travel, and especially with the heightened health situation that we live in now, is very, very difficult to... If one person gets infected, everybody's going to get infected.
You cannot control that many people. It's not possible.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to figure a better way to say it, but no, I mean, that's just how it is.
That's what it needs. You don't have a choice. I mean, that's
Right.
why, like, with the NBA and the PLL, it's like they bus to and from. Mm-hmm. Your meals are accounted for at your hotel. Mm-hmm. Your daily routine is accounted by, staff and everything. So it's like everything is controlled, from maybe not when you wake up to when you go to bed,
right?
But literally everything else as far as human contact, social interaction, who you're seeing on the daily basis. Those are all things that are being, how you're getting to the games. Those are all controlled. That safe bubble,
Yeah.
It's the variable of, all right, we need to get to Baltimore, but we're playing in Milwaukee.
Right.
How do we get there? Are we busing or are we flying?
Well,
Probably flying.
And there's also other safety issues that you got to look up. I know Woj of ESPN brought up that the fact that the Major League Baseball pitched the idea of doing a bubble in Arizona. Now, obviously, this was before Arizona turned into its own mess going to C-19.
Right.
But who could have seen that coming back in, February, March? The other issue is meteorologists pointed out on Sunday in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, it reached, before you're even talking heat indexes, 116 degrees. You know how many indoor baseball stadiums are in that state? One. And that's where the Arizona Diamondbacks play. So name me a major league player who's going to want to be outside in 116-degree heat before you're talking heat indexes for like 3 hours.
It's a very good question. And at the time...
Then you're talking heat stroke.
Well, at the time, everybody's just trying to figure out what would be the best possible solution.
Sure.
Right.
In my opinion, the NBA has done a stellar job with it.
Sure.
Major League Lacrosse has done a great job with it.
Premier Lacrosse.
MLL
had a slip-up.
Or, I'm sorry, Premier Lacrosse.
It's okay.
And
I forgive.
The NHL has done
far
a great job thus far. Yeah, we have not heard anything
outside that water leak.
To the credit of the NHL, though, I mean, they're doing it differently too because they're going to cities.
Right.
You know, like they're not doing this just in one site in Orlando. They're, you know, having hub cities where you got to think like they don't have rinks at an abundance.
Right.
No.
You know, like in Disney, they're able to.
They've converted ballrooms.
Yeah, they've converted ballrooms. They've turned, you know, areas that were inside into basketball courts. I mean, with the Premier Lacrosse League, they were fortunate. They only have 7 teams, so they're able to play, you know, 2 games a night and switch it and rotate it that way. So it's like, you know, they have the ability to do these things. The NHL, you got one facility or 2 facilities that are running, you know, multiple games throughout the day. That's logistical nightmare.
And especially when you might have a city that's got a building big enough and spacious enough to host a hockey game. If it's not built for it, it won't work.
Right. So where Major League Baseball now has to look at is you are looking at the first negative moment from your season being involved in a COVID era. How do you handle this? How do you go about business? Now, Commissioner Manfred has said that they're not going to have a slowdown.
Right.
That Miami is now going to be quarantined for a week.
Yeah, for a week, if not longer. I know Major League Baseball was taking some flack yesterday and especially from one writer I follow out in New York who was watching the MLB Network and kind of lambasting them for like, oh, it's been an hour. Why are they not talking about anything? Major League Baseball is getting their ducks in a row. They're figuring, because this isn't just, oh, hey, some player got caught doing something bad. You know, they got arrested for DWI.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that is major, and they got to get their ducks in a line and figure out what the hell is going on. So, on the surface, at first, it didn't look good, but hey, I got to give them credit. You know, they appear to be on top of things. We'll see where it goes, and you know, we'll see what happens with the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, suspending those games, postponing the other teams from playing, those are all right steps in player safety first, which was a concern going into this.
Right, and there was a possibility the Yankees could have played the Phillies because the Phillies had not tested positive and were not showing any symptoms for the last 48 hours. But they said, out of an abundance of caution, we're not playing the games.
Yeah.
No, and that's where you have to be safe about this. And they are being safe with the players. As soon as they found out, okay, Miami's been shut down for a week, if not longer. You know, we're waiting to see how everybody's doing with their test results.
Yeah, what's our next steps? What do we, you know, and that's the right thing to do.
And what baseball now has to look at is all eyes of the sporting world is on you right now.
Especially the NFL.
Especially the NFL. And Pat, you bring it up.
Because you think baseball's got issues with, you know, however many people they're traveling, about double it, and you got the NFL.
Right. And like I said, both of you guys have brought up great points about the NFL because their season is hinging on how baseball is operating.
Right. We've talked about that. I mean,
they're
literally sitting back, probably Goodell and his team, and they're watching the way that the MLB is handling the travel and everything.
Yeah.
The only benefit the NFL has is that they play once.
Yep.
Right.
That's it.
Well, and even the thing I was thinking about today is if the NFL has said they're not considering a bubble, you know, they're not doing it. But if they were to consider it, I don't know where, and I can't think of anywhere. I think the smart idea is if they're able to find some place, because obviously you're not going to find a city with 16 ready football stadiums, you know, so you're not going to be able to run a regular season. If you are able to find something with enough football stadiums in the area, maybe do an NHL setup, you know, do it and then stagger it through the week where you have a game on every night of you know, keep the schedules, keep the matchups all the same, you know, but then stagger it through the week. So if you're playing on Sunday, next week you're playing on Monday. If you're playing on Monday, next week you're playing on Tuesday. Because that way you give enough time for people to travel and test and everything else and prep. And tell me what NFL fan isn't going to be okay with a football game on every day of the week?
Oh, no, there will be a definite audience for it. There's no question of that. The NFL is the biggest pastime in all of North America.
Yeah.
Well, I would think that the thing that would make the most sense is the West Coast, where you've got San Francisco, you've got you got LA, you have Denver. I mean, if you needed to, you have Vegas. You know, so you've got those stadiums in that bubble that you can use. Arizona, you know, is traveling a day. You know, if you're a West Coast base. So, I mean, that's a potential too. That would be the only thing that would make sense to me.
You still got the Oakland Coliseum out there.
And you still got
the Raiders aren't playing there, but it's still the same setup.
You still got the Rose Bowl too.
The only question would be is with the outbreaks in that.
Yeah, no, I know that. But I'm just saying, like, from a standpoint of, okay, where do you have enough stadiums within a vicinity of each other that you could literally travel and keep players in a small enough location? Because New York, that would work. But, you know, giant stadiums, New Jersey, Buffalo, maybe Philly you could use, but
You'd have to start looking at college stadiums.
Like we were talking about off the air, the Dome would be a potential. But in LA, you've got 4 major NFL ready facilities, all within probably, depending on traffic, 45 minutes from each other.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a plausible idea. Like I said, the only thing is it just depends if the players would feel comfortable going into those hotspot areas now. Then that.
Right. Well, right now, though, no. But, maybe 4 months from now, it slows down in the Los Angeles area, and maybe it's feasible.
You have to think about it. Or another idea I was even thinking, too, and I know this sounds very far-fetched, but if the NHL is operating in Canada, there's the CFL leagues.
Yeah.
Could you maybe work out a deal to use their stadium?
If they didn't want Toronto traveling to
that's
States,
another point, though.
They didn't want the Blue Jays to play there.
You're right. So it all depends on what you feel about that. Like they'd have to set up a hub situation at those stadiums. But that's a lot of legwork that unfortunately they don't have time to do.
No.
I think that maybe if it was going into next season, that might be an option. But looking at what they have to do immediately, they have to come up with a game plan to say, okay, if we go to a stadium and there's cases breaking out of COVID, what do we do? And how do we react? This is the precedent that Major League Baseball needs to address. And I think for right now, they're handling it okay, just because this is uncharted waters.
Yeah.
No, what else could they have done?
No, and I think they were fully. We remember hearing the reports that their health whatever book was like 100 and whatever pages long.
Yeah, their health protocol.
I think they were kind of maybe late on the ball on this because they foresaw players getting it. I just don't think they foresaw this many well, not even this early. This many getting it that rapidly in succession.
Right.
That there might have been plans for, 2, 3, 4, whatever, get it, here's what we do. I don't think they ever had, because we're 48 hours into those players getting diagnosed, we're into double digits.
Well, and what do you want Manfred to do? Have a 45 style press conference and just say everything's in control? Like, first off, he's not that kind of commissioner, so he's not going to hold, some national media press conference. You're not going to have, they're not going to have an independent doctor come in and release a statement. They're going to, or have a press conference. They're just going to release a statement that says, hey, we had 14 players and coaches test positive. This is how our protocol will be handled. Right. These are our next steps, and this is where we're going from here. Boom. I don't understand how people are not satisfied with that.
Well, people are just wanting to see their sports run like normal.
It's
the problem.
That's the ignorance.
I agree with you. I fully agree with you because
I said it.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong with it.
No,
because everybody's seeing baseball is back and the sense of normalcy is back with it.
I'll say, don't get me wrong. I would love to be sitting in right field in the first level at Yankee Stadium, having taken a bus trip down there with my girlfriend, but it's not going to happen.
Right.
As much as it sucks, I've still got, as good as those Yankee Classics games are on, because, hey, Yes Network pulled out a gem and showed the last game of the 2009 World Series, and God, if I didn't love watching that
instead of showing the Nets, baby.
Yep.
Yeah, and
who wants to watch the Nets?
Nobody.
Well,
maybe family members, but
Nope.
But I love watching that game, and I love watching some of those classic Yankee games. But it's not the same thing as a live one that means something. I know what's going to happen in the game where Jeter goes into the stands. I know what's going to happen in various games of the World Series. I don't know what's going to happen in the games that are live, and that's what I love.
Right, and that's something that Major League Baseball is going to just have to really keep an eye on, because now the question is, God forbid there's another outbreak. That I don't want to say outbreak, but maybe more, a case situation.
Sure.
Like a team gets infected.
Worst case scenario, obviously the incubation period for the Phillies, let's just say even 1 or 2 players come back positive. The protocol is already in place. Suspend that season and make up the games where you can.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah. No, just because the teams in the same division are playing teams from the opposite league in their East is playing the East. Just flex it so that pick some other team or maybe divide it out equally. If the Yankees are playing 4 games against the Phillies or whatever it ends up working out to be, add 4 games with 4 different teams.
I think the difference is that, in the Marlins case, all right, yeah, if they have 14 players that end up being out due to the COVID, or 12 players, and maybe 2 of them are big time players, that's going to hurt the Marlins.
Sure, but then the other thing too is, like I said, they're carrying 30 players with them,
right?
And there's 30 players in an alternate training site where they're basically staying game ready.
Well, what I mean by that is, like, if Marlins obviously not a good team.
No.
Sure, they're in first place with 2-1, but name their all-stars. I'll wait. You know what I mean? Like, so their two best players being out might kill them.
Yeah.
The Yankees, however, if they miss Judge for a game, they still have the abundance of batting that can make up for missing Judge for 1 or 2 games if, he, God will, saying that he ever had a positive test.
Right.
However, the flip side of this, if the NFL had something like this happen, let's say, the Buccaneers are going to play and, now you're looking at, Tom Brady being, having it and now he's out. That's going to sway
it's a whole different dynamic.
It's a whole different dynamic. So in the NFL standpoint of, one positive test could really screw everything up in the NFL, that they don't have the additional roster space, of players to carry.
Right. It's a fine line to walk that baseball really needs to set that precedent for.
Well, and not only that though, but baseball has with the roster sizes and the way that the game is played, you have the abundance and ability to be able to miss a guy for a game and not have it, matter as much.
Right.
You have your starting left tackle missing, X, Y, and Z game, and all of a sudden you're playing, Chase Young in Washington, and you got this 7th round undrafted rookie going against them. Chase Young's or J.J. Watt, they're going to have a field that's going to sway the battle or position of the game versus the baseball, where you can make up for an Aaron Judge not being there. So in the NFL, it's like you really need to figure something out, because if you have one test or one team that has something going on, that could ruin the entire season.
Oh, fully. So that being said, baseball is definitely going to have to be very careful with their protocol moving forward. They have done a good job handling the situation thrown at them, but for all eyes of the sports world watching them, they're going to definitely need to really make sure that they're setting that example, because the NFL is definitely waiting to see how they react and come up with a game plan for themselves. Let us know what you think, though. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the start of the Major League Baseball season? Is your team doing well? Is it not? And what is your take on everything going on with the COVID cases that are breaking out with the Miami Marlins? We want to have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Nerd Bomber here, one of the co-hosts of the Online Warriors podcast. Our weekly podcast started as a way for 3 friends to keep in touch and discuss their passion for movies, gaming, technology, and entertainment. And since then, we've grown into a fantastic online community. Every Wednesday, we release a new episode discussing the latest nerdy news, and then we go hands-on with our weekly adventures and a fun trivia show. Sound interesting? Check us out on every podcast platform, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or hit us up at onlinewarriorspodcast.com.
This is Rich, the host of the 3 Fat Nerds podcast and co-host of the Horror Zone 607 podcast, and you are listening to our hashtag 607 podcast brothers, the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Now kick it back over to Ken Moneybags and the crew.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to talk some NFL news. And unfortunately, C-19 is striking at the NFL right now. Pad, you got the latest?
Yeah, so C-19 is striking at the NFL. From what I understand, there are some teams and some stadiums that are allowing a small percentage of fans to come to the stadiums. Not everyone. I know the Patriots were one that, if they're allowed, there's been some other ones. Check your local areas. But we also have some players opting out of the season as follows. I won't go through the whole list of names. Just some notable ones. You've got Jordan Mack, the linebacker for the Carolina Panthers, was one. Marquise Goodwin of the Philadelphia Eagles is another one who has opted out of the season. Patrick Chung of the New England Patriots has opted out. Just to mention a few, Andre Smith, an offensive tackle from the Baltimore Ravens, Dante Hightower of the Patriots has opted out. So you just got a whole bunch of guys that are just like, you know what, I'm good, not going to play.
Well, they have to be safe than sorry.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Coach, I will let you, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with the NFL allowing players to have this position, if you're not comfortable playing, then this is your right to speak out and say that you're not comfortable playing.
I'll say I should know the first one to come out and say that he is not playing this season was Kansas City Chiefs guard Laurent Duvernay Tardif, not because of any concerns of his own health. He's working in a medical facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that has a doctorate degree,
Yes.
I believe.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say? You can't crush these guys in any way because it's their choice.
Yeah.
It's obviously, like I said before in the previous segment, I mean, these guys are their biggest investment, and they are, their body is their temple. And if they don't feel comfortable, then don't do it.
I'll say I know for a lot of guys, it's it's their choice. It is what it is. And nobody's really batting an eyelash. There are some though, and I know two particular ones with the Patriots. Marcus Cannon, their offensive tackle, has opted out of the season. He was a cancer survivor and survived. He overcame non-Hodgkin lymphoma, so he opted out for that reason. And then Dante Hightower his wife just gave birth to their first child about a week or two ago. So
I'll just say that if you need a running back who hasn't played since high school, I am available for a scrub pickup, and I don't care to be called a scrub as long as I'm rocking a uniform and pads on a Sunday.
There you go.
So that's fine by me.
Ultimate fantasy football sleeper pick, Coach Duffy.
Hey, I'm goal line specialist, baby.
Hey, Disney.
I only fall forward.
Hey, Disney, we got a sequel to Invincible for you.
Oh, let's make that happen.
I mean, if these players are obviously going to step down, I mean, I know that teams have practice squad guys, and there's obviously undrafted rookies.
Yeah.
If they have to play, they have to play. But like I said in the previous segment, you get one guy that tests positive and, he's a starting position player, and then all of a sudden now you got to go against J.J. Watt and you're missing your starting right tackle. That's going to sway games. And that is the only problem that I have. That, you are a team that, is positioned as being a playoff team. Something happens, the NFL forces your hand and makes you play, and then you're missing, your leading, rusher, or your leading tackle or your leading whatever. It's going to change outcomes. That's the only thing.
Sure, and these are all some. If you are a fan of any of these teams that have players who say, I'm not playing this season. For you, they're big, but for the NFL at large, there are some names, there are some recognizable names, but it's not a marquee, 5-star player. It's not a Michael Thomas. It's not a Kyler Murray. It's not a Drew Brees. It's not a Tom Brady. I think that's going to be whoever, if there is one of those caliber players that steps out first, that's going to be the real shock and real interesting one.
Well, it's going to be the one that everybody focuses on right now. I mean, the one team that's been hit the hardest right now is the New England Patriots.
6 players, I believe.
6 players as we are recording.
It's a purpose move. It's a Patriot move.
The conspiracy is on right now.
The conspiracy is on, but look at Belichick's history. When he loses a player, they find somebody else to plug in. They lost Gronk in the one playoff game, and they made fine.
If Trevor Lawrence somehow winds up on a Patriot jersey this season, I don't know.
I'm saying.
Something crazy is going to happen.
Why do you think I haven't bought a Cam jersey yet?
Yeah,
well, anything is possible. But getting to where we're going with the story, though, the NFL, like Coach touched upon, if you lose a star player out for quarantine or when they have the virus, or they're going home to be with their families right now, that is going to hurt your season. And obviously, player safety is more important than the game.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but
I'm just saying from the aspect of Vegas and
Sure.
lines.
Sure.
I mean, that changes betting habits. It changes.
Oh, yeah.
It changes lines. It changes all that stuff. So from that aspect of it, this is, and you and I talked about it on the drive to the UFC, fantasy football.
Yeah.
What if you have, one of these players, Michael Thomas, like you named, all of a sudden they test positive, they're unable to play, and now you're in, your fantasy league, which I know doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying of a standpoint of the NFL is a cash business.
Oh, yeah.
And there is side cash that grows on that NFL cash money. Yeah. And if you take away from that, it will hurt the product.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. When you have a sport that becomes a business and what that business affects, and we've already talked about it, the NFL is the biggest franchise sport in the United States.
From to Vegas to spreads to
from
fantasy football to locks and leaps to everything.
To even going to restaurants and bars when they were open and how much business that drives in there. The trickle-down effect of the NFL running is huge. And if you don't think that's we're just kind of saying that, take a look at the advertising dollars spent on the Super Bowl and how much that generates.
I mean, just look at the fact that 4 preseason games aren't happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is another big story breaking out that they've decided to cancel all of preseason for safety measures.
Yep.
Which I think is a smart move with everything going on.
Well, that's something the players have been asking for like a month.
So I 50-50 on it.
Okay.
Because, one, I understand why they did it, because obviously your first week you're traveling with 90 guys. That's a logistical nightmare. Yeah. So I understand, that. But I understand that your veterans don't play in the preseason as much, but for these guys who are trying to make a roster and everything, these preseason games are, huge as far as going a long way between, maybe, not making the roster but making a practice squad, or, not making that roster, getting cut, but then getting picked up by another team who was able to see you play. Sure. So I from that aspect, I feel for those guys because now they have less time to show and shine. The other thing, too, is the on-field product.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what happens week 1 when, guys miss an entire preseason. Mm-hmm. It's very sloppy the first week. Mm-hmm. Safety first, and I get that. I'm just saying from an on-field product standpoint, from those guys who are trying to make a roster, that's where it's going to hurt the most, not having the preseason. But I understand why you don't want to travel with 90 guys week 1.
No, I mean, I got it when they said they canceled the first 2 games of the NFL preseason. I understood that. I got that just because the bulk of the conversation online was, the players and coaches want more time to work with each other because they haven't had any practices together.
Sure.
They haven't been able to do anything. So they wanted more time to work with their players and this and that. I'm like, okay, I get that. I do kind of scratch my head at no preseason games just because, like, all the reasons Coach said. But then again, I'm also not a football coach. I'm not an expert, so they know 1,000 more things than I do, so they might know better than I do.
Well, you always have to worry about that factor, that if players don't get enough reps before the season begins, the product on the field is not up to par. I mean, this is where you can take a look at the difference between the NFL and the AAF and the XFL when they were running. It's just different caliber players at different levels.
Well, not only that, I mean, just look at the fact that, players fought for, limited amount of tackling and hitting practices leading into the season, and then no contact, light contact during the week during the season. Mm-hmm. You've seen tackling take a regression because these guys aren't, quote unquote, building up their tackling shoulders. You know what I mean? Like in the NFL and WWE, they talk about like your bump card. You know, like if you don't have your bumps built up, your back, you get in there for the first time in a few years, you're going to feel every nick and cranny, of every bump you take. So in the NFL is the same thing. I mean, when you're not tackling and constantly getting that shoulder getting smacked, that first hit that you take, you might pull up, something might happen. So tackling has regressed since they've not been doing that. Player safety first. I get why they do it.
Right.
However, it has hurt the on-field product from the standpoint of tackling, and this is the same thing. You miss 4 preseason games, you roll out week 1. Look at college football. That's why.
Absolutely.
That's why Alabama schedules Northwestern, Mississippi, Tennessee State. There's a reason why they do that, because they haven't played a preseason game besides themselves. Right. They need that tune-up before they go into that Florida State game, that that big Capital One game that they play every year. So missing that preseason is going to hurt the on-field.
Oh, and absolutely. And then you have to worry about getting replacement players in. And last what I was saying, there's a very difference between grabbing somebody that played in the XFL and putting them right in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the skill set is not there.
Well, I saw a story written about potential, undrafted or players on the Giants bubble for making the roster. Mm-hmm. You can't predict that right now because you have no idea what this is going to look like. What if the NFL all of a sudden says, all right, we're going to you carry your 53-man roster, but we're going to let you carry 20 practice players in a safe, bubble situation like MLB is doing, an off-site place.
Sure.
You don't know. So how can you can't project roster cuts because we don't know who's even going to opt in or opt out yet.
Right.
So you can't predict anything. I know it's for an article and a story that, during quiet times you need to write, but you can't project that.
Yeah, it's just something that with players now taking the season off for safety reasons, there's a lot of uncertainty with the NFL. Like we touched upon last segment, too, with baseball and how teams are traveling into multi-states. The NFL is having that same problem they're going to have.
Sure.
and how they're going to balance this with replacement players, as it might turn out to be, because if you are a team that is depleted from your normal starting roster, how is that going to go into effect for the games? It's a lot of varied factors that we just don't know. And going into the season, especially no preseason, your game 1 week matchups are going to be very, very different than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an easy way to predict it. I don't think you can until you get there. And if a major superstar like a Tom Brady, like an Aaron Rodgers, like a J.J. Watt decides to take the season off, how much is that going to affect your team? And like Coach said, football trickles down so much into other business areas, it's going to be a huge domino effect that I don't know if businesses are ready for. I don't know if fans are ready for. It's just something that we as fans, and if you're running a business that deals with the NFL in whatever certain way, you're going to have to be prepared to have a very, very different season than you've had in years past.
Yeah, and you got to figure it'll have an effect, at least in terms of betting and in terms with Vegas, just from the fact that if you have a team that is missing a bunch of key players of varying talent levels, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, what have you, that if I'm a bettor in Vegas, if I'm out making bets in Vegas, and I'm looking at a team, say, picking randomly off the top of my head, Jacksonville Jaguars, that if I'm looking at betting some games and I'm looking at that Jaguars, whoever they're playing, let's just say it's the Raiders, I'm looking at that game going, I don't know if I want to pick Jacksonville because they're missing their starting linebacker, their starting defensive tackle, their starting cornerback, they're missing their starting left tackle, and they're missing their starting wide receiver. Yeah. You could have a team that, God forbid, they're missing a lot of key players that some people just aren't going to want to mess with.
And if the product is not up to where it's been in the years past, a lot of criticism is going to be had, which is unwarranted. But
I mean, yeah, because there's just the ignorance is out there. So yeah, you're going to have people that are going to complain. Like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, I get why tackling's regressed. Like, I don't complain about it because I understand why it is. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, you're going to talk about players, especially quarterbacks and wide receivers. I mean, they are working 365 days a year, timing, route running, signals, all this stuff. And now they've been regulated to Zoom calls, and Zoom conferences where, all right, some players and quarterbacks have had quarantine workouts, which, they weren't supposed to have, which, is whatever. That's their choice. They want to do it, they can. But, ultimately, the ones that really, besides like Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, where, they're so synced that they'll be fine come week 1, you might have like a Daniel Jones and a Darius Slayton where they're still trying to grow a relationship as far as a young quarterback and a young wide receiver, that this offseason camp, or offseason workouts that they could have been holding on the side would have been huge for development.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
But they don't have that now.
No, it's going to be a very, very different product we see on the field. And I think that we're going to hear more names get dropped out by the time the season starts.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that if you are, a veteran player that, maybe not on a contract year, that might be a little more comfortable in your status,
sure.
Might step out.
Sure.
I wouldn't blame them at all. It's a smart move to do for them. Mm-hmm. At the same time, though, maybe you are a veteran player who's, looking at a contract year who, wants to either fight for a longer term extension or, maybe fight on to have one more year left. I would understand on the flip side of you staying on.
Yeah, there's going to be varying factors that are going to go into play. And it depends on where the player is at their career, like you touched upon. It's very hard to predict how this season is going to look. But with the amount of names that are dropping out right now, and for very good reason if it's based off the COVID, that we completely understand about player safety.
I 100% don't think a player is going to cash out just because they're going to say that, I'm going to get paid while I'm, because we don't know what the status is going to be for those players that do opt out. Are they going to get 100% salary, or is it going to be a prorated amount for not playing games? Are they going to get their base amount, that's guaranteed, and then obviously all signing all bonuses and everything like that will be held because they're not meeting those goals. Yeah. So if that's the case, maybe it will incentivize guys to come and play. But like in the Dante Hightower thing, your wife just has your first child. You're a veteran, with probably a comfortable contract left. Do you really need to meet those, roster bonuses and everything? Maybe not.
Here's an interesting one for you that just hit the ESPN wire within the last 20 minutes. Green Bay Packers wide receiver Devin Funches is opting out of the season, citing family health. So article from ESPN.com reads, Green Bay Packers receiver Devin Funches, who had firsthand experience with COVID-19 this offseason while caring for family members with the disease, has opted out of the 2020 season. 26-year-old veteran was the only experienced addition the Packers made to their receiving core, which was viewed as one of the few weaknesses on a team that had reached the NFC Championship last season. He signed a one-year, $2.5 million deal that included a $1 million signing bonus after a lost year with the Colts in 2019 when he suffered a broken collarbone in Week 1.
There you go.
Well, there's a prime example.
That is the antithesis of what I was just talking about.
Yeah, so however Green Bay decides to handle this for the contract, that's going to be the benchmark that is set for across the league. I mean, I would imagine.
I would think that obviously the NFL Players Association and the NFL have probably already had some sort of talk on.
I would imagine.
I mean,
so.
if they're letting players opt out, then obviously there must have been some sort of something set, which I would imagine is your guarantee will be paid, but roster bonuses and everything. Because I mean, that's the funny thing about the NFL, which no other league really has.
Right.
The NFL, your base contract might only be $500,000, but your roster bonuses and your incentives might be worth $7.5 million.
Yeah.
So like with Devin Funches, his 2.5, $1 million of that might be guaranteed. 1.5 of that might be all incentives.
It's so many variables.
So I mean, if you're a base salary of $1 million, I'm sure is probably enough for him to say no thanks.
Well, we might even have an answer reading further down in the article. It says Funches was placed on the reserve/opt-out list, which allows the Packers to retain him under the same contract for the 2021 season.
Oh, that's smart. I think.
Right, which I mean that makes.
Yeah.
Listen, we've talked about what this, the NBA and the NHL and MLB, what this will mean for contracts, because I mean, you're not playing a full year. In the NBA, obviously, they're playing as close to a full year, as you could. So you would think that their contracts will move on. But, for guys that opted out, what does that mean? Like a Trevor Ariza, who had a 1-year deal signed with Portland, like he played 70% of the games until COVID hit in March. Yeah. Is that contract going to be retained? With the NFL, it's easy because they'll just move the money over to that list.
Yeah.
Right. So that being said, we're going to just keep our eyes on how the league is going to be reacting this season, and I would imagine we're going to hear more names get added.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different product on the field, but we're still going to get the NFL as it stands right now.
We hope.
We hope, but a lot of things can change between now and then. So you're just going to have to stay tuned to your team and, get ready for some football, however it's going to be interpreted in the fall.
Yeah.
One team, though, that is going to have a completely different look to their backfield is the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Pat, do you have the trade that shook the NFL up?
Yeah, so there was a trade that went down a couple days ago. Of course, we all know how the former New York Jets defensive safety Jamal Adams wanted out of there in like the worst way humanly possible.
Yeah.
Was willing to do anything and everything to get out of that city. I'm pretty sure he was willing to like hitchhike his way out of there. Wanted out that badly. No, he got his wish and was able to get out of there and land in. Now I know he wanted to go to Dallas, and fans even caught him someplace. And they said, "Oh, you're coming to Dallas?" And he was like, "Oh, yep." And didn't go to Dallas. He ended up going to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks will send safety Bradley McDougall, and then the first-round picks in 2021 and 2022, and a third-round pick in 2021 to the Jets in exchange for Adams and the Jets' fourth-round pick in 2022. This is all pending physicals.
Coach, your thoughts?
So I have two thoughts after reading a little more into the trade, that this can go one of two ways for the Jets. One, that they now position themselves, because offensively, I mean, outside Le'Veon Bell and Robbie Anderson a little bit, who has his ups and downs.
Really, fantasy more downs.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crowder have not a ton of weapons, for Sam Darnold.
No.
So if he has, a good year or even a moderately okay year, that they can use these picks to position themselves to go out and get some skill players this, draft.
Yeah.
Or maybe he has a bad year, and now they have these draft picks to then use to move up in the draft to get one of the quarterbacks that are coming out this year, i.e. Trevor Lawrence.
It's a big move they can do. I fully agree with you that the Jets could come out of this either on the flip side, great in position for the future, or
Well, either way, I mean, I think that this trade really is, and it's not so much on Jamal Adams' contributions in Seattle, the way that this trade should be weighed.
Sure.
It should be weighed on how does Sam Darnold perform, because
Right.
if Sam Darnold performs well, they can go and use these picks to go get a few players. If he plays bad, then they got to use these picks to move up, which does not help. So
I think it already works out good for. I'm not gonna say great. It works out good for the Jets because you get a distraction out of the locker room.
well, that too.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, no matter what the protocols and what goes on with the NFL season, if the reporters are in person or on Zoom calls, what's the one question Sam Darnold, Le'Veon Bell, Robbie Anderson, and even the head coach with the Jets or any other position player on that team going to get asked if Jamal Adams wasn't traded? What do you think? They're going to go, what do you think about Jamal Adams' Instagram post? Did you hear what he said the other day in the media? It was going to be all questions about him. It's not going to be, hey, what are you doing to prepare this week for the Buffalo Bills? What do you think of your what do you think of that fourth quarter drop pass? Was it just an overthrown ball? Was this? No, it's going to be all questions about Jamal Adams. But now with that gone, they can focus on the game. Now, whether it works out for them in the draft picks and what have you, wait and see.
you definitely have to see. By the way, Robbie Anderson is with Carolina now.
Oh.
So they're
Well, there you go.
they're even hurting more. I have to say that Seattle, though, is going to have one of the scariest defensive backfields in all the league.
Yeah, imagine if they would have brought Clowney back too.
Yeah.
He's a free agent.
He's there, no.
He could still wind up going back there. I don't think he's going to, but if they decide to bring back the Legion of Boom 2.0.
Yeah, how'd that work for him in 49?
Well, with Jamal Adams and the distraction, I mean, when he was on the field, it was fine.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Sure.
and I mean, this
Sure.
this offseason, he had his highs of, I want out. But once, he didn't get traded, he was a little quieter. I
Sure.
mean, yeah, there was a couple posts here and there that were a little interpreted your own way. But for Seattle, this is a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, you're talking about Legion of Doom 2.0. You're talking about having a dynamic, versatile playmaking safety that is an absolute ball hawk that you can use in multiple positions. Not just at safety. You can line them up in the box. You can put them in the slot. So, I mean, for Seattle that knows and can utilize that type of player, this is a perfect landing spot for him. Much better than what he would have been in Dallas.
Oh, absolutely. Dallas, who got lost in the shuffle.
Well, not even just that. They just want to use them the way that Seattle will.
Right. That's what I mean.
Seattle made Earl Thomas a Pro Bowl player.
Right. And Jamal Adams is going to be having a monster year if he can just stay healthy and get on the field.
Yeah.
I fully think him and Pete Carroll is going to be a good match, and definitely an upgrade from Adam Gase.
Yeah.
Gase,
Jury's out.
Yeah, whatever's going on down with the Jets right now is absolutely crazy. I know Le'Veon Bell immediately got on social media and had some
Week 14?
Yeah, some choice opinions about that, and yeah, Week 14 was the response.
Well, I mean, the ups and downs, like with, Le'Veon Bell and the Gase comments, the overweight comment and then everything, and then obviously the shots that were made, at Jamal Adams by Gase. I mean, it just sounds like, a little unraveling almost, a little untethered. But Week 14 is going to be exciting because these two are going to be matched up against each other, and one's going to run into the other.
Yeah.
Well, who wins, we'll see.
Yeah, I like Adams in that one.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm just
I mean, listen, I saw it when, he literally ripped the ball from Jamal Adams like, a grown man taking candy from a baby. I mean, he just snatched it. So he's a grown man playing football.
Yeah, Adams is an absolute beast, and he's going to be wrecking havoc in the NFC West, which I am so happy he's no longer in the AFC East.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely glad it wasn't traded to Dallas because that was my concern.
Yeah.
Obviously was seeing him twice a year, so that was always, it was bad enough seeing him, once every 4 years, but, again, we'll see him once every 4 years, but definitely not seeing him twice is better than anything at all.
Yeah, so I think Seattle definitely won the trade here, and with the Jets, who knows what they're going to do with those draft picks. It'd be smart to start thinking some upgrades in certain areas, but it's the Jets, so I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see.
I don't think
that.
they know.
I don't think they definitely do either. But let us end on one of the most surprising stories of the year.
Yeah.
I would have to say.
Yeah.
It was announced that Alex Smith is returning to play football. He has been medically cleared to return to Washington.
Which, given the state of his leg after that gruesome injury, if you haven't seen it or you're not familiar with the story, check out the ESPN E60, I believe it was. Great E60.
Yeah.
Freakish injury.
Yeah, one of the most horrific leg injuries you'll ever see happen to a human body in any sport.
I'll say, I think you and I were at a local establishment when that injury went down. They showed the play live because, hey, it's live. Once they went to replays, they did not show that replay.
No, but we saw that live, and I think you heard the entire establishment just drop. Like,
and even the even bigger concern was when Joe Theismann hopped on Twitter like within 15-20 minutes afterwards, and it was like, yeah, that Alex Smith injury looks a lot like mine did.
Yeah, it was one of the most horrific things. So to see him back on the field playing,
amazing.
Incredible. Coach, your thoughts?
I mean, the Bungazas, the stones on him to not only want to return, but will return is tremendous. I mean, the mental aspect of this, I mean, not just the physical, the rehab and the surgeries and all that stuff, like, yeah, that's tough, but it's the mental aspect that I don't think people really take into effect, because, I mean, you're going to plant that leg again to throw, and it's going to be vulnerable again, and you have to mentally be able to, be in the pocket and have those bodies flying around you, but look downfield and not check out, So, I mean, mentally, and then mentally to get up for the rehab every day and to say that I'm going to return, to say that I need to do this, to say that I want to do this, just takes another level of a human. And I mean, I always liked Alex Smith, from his days in San Francisco. I always thought he had a tough break, between, 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years, to then getting let go and going to Kansas City where, 49ers quarterbacks go to die. I thought that would be the end of his run. He had a resurgence there, and then obviously was making some headway in Washington up until the injury. So it'll be interesting to see without, camp and without preseasons games, what he's able to do with a new coaching staff there and Ron Rivera. Obviously new coaching staffs aren't necessarily sold on the incumbent quarterback that's there before. So how will Rivera feel about Dwayne Haskins? You don't know. Will he opt to have a more veteran presence in Alex Smith? So that will be interesting storylines for the Washington football team.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting story for Alex Smith to write, and especially for what he did, like you said, in San Francisco, had a tough deal there, went to Kansas City, and is responsible for how Patrick Mahomes is now. Let's not forget that.
Listen, the 49er quarterback go to die thing is a reference to Joe Montana and Elvis Grbac, because, I mean, back-to-back 49er quarterbacks went there at the end of their career, but had, ability to almost have resurgences, and save and salvage a few years left. And, that's what Alex Smith did. I mean, he was written out, and, Patrick Mahomes was right there, and they held steadfast. Alex Smith is our guy. Alex Smith is our guy. And everybody, you should play Mahomes. You should play Mahomes. And Andy Reid stayed and said, no, we're not ready. Alex Smith is our guy. And, I mean, he led them to a division title and almost a AFC championship run that year, so he played well and obviously earned his contract in Washington.
I mean, if he makes it on the field, you've already got your comeback player of the year locked
without
in.
question.
If he does make it back on the field, though, that is your comeback story of the
millennium.
The millennium, because I think anyone who looked at that injury, and especially the images in the intervening months of just what his leg looked like in the 11 surgeries he had to have on that leg and just how black it looked. I think there's a lot of people with varying degrees of medical experience looked at it. Myself, zero medical experience. I looked at that leg and I go, there's no way he's playing again.
Anybody else would have given up.
There's no way. But to see him get medically cleared and on the cusp of coming back and stepping onto a football field again, hats off to you.
To describe how that leg was, I mean, that thing almost looked like it was going to get amputated.
It
right
was
then and
almost
there.
amputated.
It was.
Yeah, to say just the discoloring and just bruising and brokenness of that leg. You can go Google it yourself.
Like I said, the E60 they did on his whole story is great.
Right. But to see him actually suit up this year, that'll be the comeback story of the year. And him to take one snap will be incredible.
He just needs to walk on the field, man, honestly. I mean, just to be on the field dressed, in full uniform and everything, that's tremendous.
Yeah, so hopefully we get to see him suit up and play this year, because we just don't know about the NFL season moving forward, but we're going to definitely be watching. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the current state of the NFL going forward? No preseason, players taking a season off because of COVID precautions. And the big Jamal Adams trade, where is your thoughts about that? Do you think Seattle won that, or do you think the Jets did? Hit us up, let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Lucas, the host of Wonder Soul, a weekly podcast series featuring a variety of topics dealing with life's many passions and experiences. Join me and friends each week as I discuss topics ranging from pop culture to real-life conversations that all can find relatable. New episodes bring new guests and new topics and release every Friday. More content can be found on Wonder Soul's YouTube and Twitch channels. Stay up to date and connect with Wonder Soul through social media by following us on Twitter and Instagram, and we hope that you enjoy Wonder Soul wherever you listen to podcasts. So do good and take care.
Hey, this is Matt Jones.
This is Julian Hepworth.
I'm Ross Machuca.
And John McBride. And we're Shout Out to Robots. You're listening to
ODPH.
Evidence is crime. Magnets to the tail.
Coming back for segment number 3 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we say bon voyage to Fight Island for now.
For now.
This past week was the final event currently scheduled for Abu Dhabi, the big UFC Fight Island, where they've been having international fights go on since COVID has really shut down a lot of their places that they'll be fighting in the United States. So they did go out with a bang. Definitely a lot to take away from this past card. So, Pad, let us break it down. There is a new emerging superstar in the UFC.
Yeah, it is in the welterweight division, and the gentleman's name is Khamzat Chimaev, who defeated Rhys McKee over the weekend in the first round with a knockout. And, oh boy, it's not the knockout people are talking about. It's what he's done, Ken.
Yeah, so to break it down, he fought on July 15th, and he just fought July 25th. During the first fight he was in the UFC 4 on Fight Island, he landed 124 strikes.
Oh.
John Phillips, his opponent, landed 2.
Hey.
This past fight, Chimaev was landing 68 strikes to Rhys McKee's 0.
Yikes.
So bringing a total of 192 strikes to 2 in 2 fights in 10 days.
I mean, that's why you're able to perform so quick. No need for medical.
I think that's a little lopsided.
Yeah, this is absolutely wild to see.
Yeah.
So now the UFC has an emerging superstar in that welterweight division. Not that they needed to add anybody else in that one.
No,
but
good Lord.
But this fighter is going to get skyrocketed. He has just this aura around him. Like when you start hearing about the fighters that get all the hype behind them, some of them pan out.
Sure.
Some of them do not. This guy already in 2 fights we've seen has looked absolutely dominant.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can't have that kind of performance on ESPN broadcasted fights and not get a little buzz generator around
Well,
it.
and if you have the opportunity and you haven't seen the fight, you should. He's landing these punches on the guy, and I get that it's not the normal crowd and there's not the normal noise in the background, but still, I haven't heard punches land on a person the way, even with all the fights in Fight Island, the way he landed fights on McKee, that they were just bombs, and he's just and it's just like, holy shit, that hurts me, and I'm sitting however many thousands of miles away.
Yeah, it was just outright frightening. So the man is going to definitely get skyrocketed up the card. He has already been announced that he has a fight coming up August 15th already.
Donald Cerrone, eat your heart out.
He might be fighting. We don't know who he's fighting. I wouldn't doubt
This is like a
Cerrone.
Cerrone level of work ethic.
Yeah, he was begging for a immediate fight after his first one on the 15th. He was granted it. Now he's asking. He said in the post-fight interview too. He's like, "Give me an hour. I'm ready to go."
I mean, if you're not getting hit, yeah.
Yeah, but he just goes in there, and the thing about it too, Daniel Cormier pointed this out. I want to say it was on Ariel Helwani's show. He said Chimaev just gets in the pocket like Khabib, or Khabib will like stick and move and work angles to set up his combo.
Right.
Chimaev was just standing there smiling, bring it on, and like just daring his opponent to hit him, like that kind of fierce mental game.
That's the shit that scares me at night.
Yeah, that's the stuff that he's going to be fighting for a title sooner than later.
That's why modesty ball scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
You people who smile while getting punched in the face freak me out.
Yeah, so Chimaev definitely looked the role.
Yeah.
I expect a big announcement of who he's going to be fighting. Maybe somebody in the top 15 of the welterweight division, somebody on the lower half.
Could be.
We'll see, but don't doubt that he gets a top 10 opponent by year's end at this pace.
Yeah.
The hype is real with him. Pat, that being said, who else we got on the card?
After that, you had another matchup in the welterweight division, which was Alex Oliveira who defeated Peter Sabota by unanimous decision.
Cowboy Oliveira is definitely somebody that gets in the cage and scraps.
Yeah.
And he definitely always puts on a show. Always a fun fighter to watch, so wasn't too surprised at this one. Fight went very back and forth, but wasn't surprised at that decision at all.
No, neither was I. I mean, kind of what I expected to get, and especially given the fact that all three judges had it 30-27.
Yeah, no, Oliveira looked great in that fight.
Yeah. After that was a light heavyweight matchup between Paul Craig and good Lord, I won't even attempt this last name. Gazdimurad Antigulov.
I love it.
Apologies if that's wrong. Paul defeated his opponent via triangle choke submission.
Oh, I did catch this one. That was nuts.
Break it down for us.
I mean, I don't remember it verbatim. I just remember he caught. There was a little bit of an entanglement on the ground, and he was trying to work for the arm, which they were talking about. He was trying to work for an arm bar.
Yeah, he was.
Almost got out of it, and then caught him with the triangle choke after grasping his arm and just pulled the triangle choke down. It was very impressive. I mean, to be able to go, from an arm bar, to a guy almost escaping, and then being able to re-up for a triangle choke, which is like one of the most difficult submission holds in all of MMA.
Yeah.
Like, that's hell of impressive.
Yeah, and especially the only thing I remember the submission. The only other thing I remember about this was his opponent when they were on the ground scrapping. His opponent almost tried doing like a backward somersault to try and just get out of it, but his toes kept getting caught in the chain link fence or whatever you want to call it. And the ref kept going, no. I'm like, can't do that.
The one thing about it, he was also patient, taking a lot of shots and setting up that arm. Like I know I was talking with Rich from 3FN about it too. And everybody that's watched it just said how patient he was getting hit.
Because he got hit. He got a couple punches to the face, if I remember.
Oh, yeah. He was getting shots landed on him. So to see that was just downright frightening, and just that skill level of patience. Because you don't see a lot of fighters do that. I mean, obviously, get in the cage, you're going to get hit. It's going to be a rough night. You understand that. But to take that amount of damage and still be composed enough to try putting on a triangle choke, and you don't see them happen a lot in the UFC nowadays as in a submission. You do see them as, an actual finish, but to see that level get pulled off, truly impressive. So definitely hats off.
Next up, you had a women's strawweight matchup where Carla Esparza defeated Marina Rodriguez by split decision.
Yeah, this one was a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
Went very back and forth. I know Carla took a lot of damage in this
she
one.
She had a nasty... the heck do you call it? Like swollen eye.
Yeah, it was.
She took a nasty cut and her eye just swelled.
Yeah, it was almost like a broken orbital.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I was watching. I was watching with my girlfriend, and she was doing the post fight interview, and that was the first. Like, I kept pointing it out to my girlfriend, but she couldn't notice it because it was going so quick. And then she finally saw it. She's like, "Ooh!" I was like, "Yeah, she's not seeing out of that thing tomorrow."
No, definitely not. So it was just brutal to see.
Yeah.
But this one, fight kind of went the way I thought it was going to go. I mean, Rodriguez was definitely in the fight, and like I said, could have gone either way, but Esparza just hung in there and definitely outpointed it.
Yep. Next up was the heavyweight division matchup between Fabricio Verdum, who defeated Alexander Gustafsson via armbar submission. Not something you see often in the heavyweight division submissions.
No. Coach, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, so I caught all of this one because the premiere game had ended. Man, dude, Gustafsson fighting at 240. That is a big jump from 205. That is heavy. And he looked it.
Yeah.
He looked heavy. When we talked about this fight, when we previewed it the week before, had kind of wondered in my head, like, what he would come in at, not knowing. Because, like, John walks around at, like, 225, 230 in between his light heavyweight fights and cuts down to 205. So I kind of wondered what Gustafsson would come in at, thinking that, all right, he's a taller guy, so, he definitely has to cut down to 205. Does he walk around maybe at like 220, 225, and that's what he would fight at? Mm-hmm. So when they pegged him at 240, I was like, holy shit, you put on a lot of weight, homie. Like, this isn't just normal. Like, you put on weight. Mm-hmm. And it looked it. At first, he was still able to move and everything, but then Verdum got him to the ground, and it was done.
And Alexander Gustafsson is not exactly a spring chicken when it comes to fighting in the UFC. He's a very seasoned veteran. He just looked, I don't want to say outclassed, but he was fighting a tougher class of opponent, it felt like, just because it didn't feel his usual skill set was there.
Well, the one thing you got to remember, too, is Gustafsson is coming out of quote-unquote retirement.
Yeah, and I thought, so when you mentioned that in the show, I didn't really give it any thought, but then after the fight, especially to I mean, your arm gets caught, it gets caught. Like, just like Brock Lesnar, it happens. You can't help it. You're trying to prevent a choke. You're trying to prevent this, and then the next thing you know, you're giving up your arm, and it slips. So I didn't really put that together. And then when I watched this fight, like, yeah, that retirement, talk and then coming back to fight again, it's got to fuck with you mentally.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't think he looked that mentally sharp going in there.
No.
I think that he had the fire to come back and start training, and he was like, okay, let me take a shot at it. Because obviously light heavyweight, he wasn't going to get a title shot anytime soon.
No.
It just,
no.
240's heavy.
Yeah, and he was working his strikes, don't get me wrong, but it almost reminded me of a bigger scale of when Max Holloway was fighting Tony Ferguson. Or no, it was Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just saw the size difference.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because Verdum is a very big heavyweight.
Right.
Gustafsson just looked big, but you could see in that takedown that happened, because Gustafsson started landing strikes. Verdum is a submission specialist.
Yeah.
The minute he got that takedown, it was done, because it just looked like Verdum's size was too much for Gustafsson.
Yeah.
And once it got to the ground, Gustafsson knew he was in trouble. Verdum slaps on the armbar, and it was almost like clinical.
Verdum's first win in 3 years.
I don't think that Gustafsson can't fight at the heavyweight division. I just think that 240's too heavy for him. Like, I think if he would have been at more of a 225, 230, a little bit lighter, a little more agile, all right, Verdum gets you to the ground, he's going to lay on you, and that's going to be difficult to get up from, period. I mean, that doesn't matter. I think Verdum was fighting at 260, if memory serves me correct. So, I mean, that's heavy, I mean, so giving up 40 pounds, like, maybe a first fight for him should have been more of like a striker-style guy than taking on somebody who was, obviously a jiu-jitsu expert, somebody that's going to be able to strap in and take you down with a submission. So, but just 240 is so fucking heavy that he looked it. He looked heavy, not like a Randy Couture when he went up from light heavyweight to heavyweight and was still like, looked scrappy. He just looked sluggish.
Yeah, he definitely looked so I think if he's going to stay up at heavyweight, which I think he has to if he's going to be fighting
it doesn't
the UFC,
have a choice.
He's got nothing left at light heavyweight.
Unless he goes to Bellator.
Yeah.
Like, he'd have to leave the UFC to make another run.
Yeah.
I think that he definitely needs to go back to the drawing board, get back in more shape, and get refocused. And if this is going to be what you want to do, you have to do this.
Maybe even spend some more time at whatever weight he's going to be fighting at for heavyweight.
Agreed.
Because I don't know how long he was at weight for at the weight he was at for this fight, but maybe it wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
That he just wasn't used to it.
I mean, he could have easily put on and packed on to 240 with how long he was off. I mean, it was almost a year and a half, right, since he fought John.
Yeah.
So he could have, easily put on the weight to move up the heavyweight and got comfortable with it during camp. But he just didn't look it. I mean, you can tell when a guy doesn't look comfortable in his own skin when he fights, and that was it.
Yeah, he definitely didn't look comfortable.
Just looking it up, it was a little over a year. His last fight was a loss to Anthony Smith.
Okay.
On June 1st of last year.
Yeah,
so
okay.
a little over a year.
So a year of like back and forth probably, and then maybe 6-7 months saying, all right, I'll fight at heavyweight, and then putting on the weight.
Yeah. So whatever he's going to do next is anybody's guess. Verdum said he is not re-signing with the UFC, so I would imagine if I'm Scott Coker at Bellator, Verdum versus Ryan Bader is one of the biggest heavyweight matchups you can make.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that fight. I think that is just headlines all over the place. I know that's been going around social media. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Going to the co-main now.
This one, like we said last week, for the old school fans, Mauricio Shogun Hua taking on Little Nog. Shogun defeated Little Nog via split decision.
Let's go back to the time warp again, shall we?
Yeah, I was saying, and if you didn't believe us and you watched the fight, you now believe us because of some of the footage they were showing from their first fight.
Yeah, the announcers literally, who was it, Dan Hardy, was like, this is their first fight in a replay.
Yeah.
And I love the one tweet, though, I can't remember who tweeted it, that was like, I think Rua went down for a takedown, and they're like, you can't go for a takedown in a trilogy, man. That's breaking a cardinal rule.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, somebody made that point, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they have had some legendary battles over the years, and Shogun wins the hat. I think he got the hat trick on this one. I think he's always beaten Lil Nog.
Yes, I believe so.
And I'm sorry, Lil Nog is 45, as they said. So
Yeah.
this one went the way I thought it was going to go. Shogun is definitely not a young man by any means either.
My one chance I felt at a double knockout out the window.
Yeah,
there were a couple instances that looked like it might happen.
It was everything I expected it to be. So What's next? I mean, hopefully
Retirement.
Nogueira's retiring, and with Shogun, who knows?
I don't want it.
Shogun, I heard that it might have been his last fight.
Hopefully.
Were there people in the audience? But the rumors I've been hearing is he doesn't want to go out with nobody in the audience.
I don't know who wants to see him fight because I know I don't want to see him fight again. He didn't look good.
No. At this stage, I'm just sorry. Father Time has caught up to him.
Yeah,
in his prime, man, one of the best.
Yeah, I mean him in that light heavyweight run that he has, champion. Like you definitely was like, oh, Rua's gonna fuck somebody up. Mm-hmm. Then John came in, messed him mentally up, and he has not been the same since that fight with John.
Well, John does that with people, man.
Yeah.
If you look at John's track record for the light heavyweight division, and everybody he's ran through, those fighters have never really been the same.
Yeah, well, outside of Cormier.
Yeah. Well, DC is a natural heavyweight, so him coming down to light heavyweight,
right?
I know.
But I'm just saying he fought him, and he's still the world heavyweight champion. So
true.
I mean,
yeah.
But Rua, man, he fought. Well, Machida too. Who just fell off the face of the earth.
Well, that's the thing when you get in there with John, and especially you can see the evolution of the fighters.
Oh,
it is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
because when you have a young fighter that rises up the ranks as quickly as John did, and for a lot of veterans in there that they're at that stage, it's like you have to really adapt and really switch things up, or keep doing what you're doing and hope the best when you're in fights. In my opinion, I mean that's just my takeaway from it.
Yeah,
sloppy.
And then for your main event, you had in the middleweight division, Robert Whittaker defeat Darren Till by unanimous decision.
All right, first off, elephant in the room, Darren Till, smaller cup.
Yeah,
not necessary, my guy. I hate to tell you, you ain't packing that if you're wearing them kind of shorts. You know what I'm saying? You're not Patrick Ewing duct taping it to your leg. All right, let's lower the cup size. That was obnoxious.
Gotta admit, I didn't notice that.
Oh my God! I literally watching the fight. The first thing I saw when he was doing his little pump up was that, and I was like, "My God, dude, seriously!" And he adjusted it, and I'm like, "What did that do? What did that do? Were you trying to intimidate him by trying to show like that you got a big cup size on? I mean, not working, obviously."
At Coach Stuffy 11 was tweeting about
Dude,
this.
it was nuts. Like I texted you guys because I fell asleep.
Yeah.
Like it was a little past my bedtime. My daughter had a softball tournament. I had the kids all day. I was a little sleepies, and the fight kind of lulled me to sleep a little bit in the first 2 rounds. So I watched it on replay, and when I watched it, the first thing, what the fuck? Like what the fuck?
I guess I'm used to seeing Till fights, so
I guess I mean, this was the first time I'd seen him. I'd heard of him before, but this was something.
Yeah, he's always been known to wear like extremely tight gear.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, listen, I get it. If I was a fighter, that's probably what I would rock too.
Yeah.
I just don't think that I would have my cup pointed so it was north and south or east to west instead of north to south. I think I would want my cup actually in position to protect myself, not make it look like I'm packing heat.
That's an interesting take, Coach.
I'm just saying. I mean, I texted you guys. I go, remind me of Shawn Michaels on that infamous promo with Vince McMahon where he was jumping up with the sock in his pants. That's all I could think about.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that Till...
Great fight.
Yeah, Till was definitely adjusting himself a little bit. The fact that you pointed that out, like, when you were texting, I'm like, okay. Because I was just watching the setup he had, because when Till got in there, I mean, him being in middleweight is a better weight class for him. Like,
sure.
He struggles at welterweight, and this one is a natural weight class for him. Robert Whittaker coming back off some time off.
Yeah.
Looked downright scary.
Oh.
Look good.
Look good.
Look real good.
Look real good. Looked very patient, taking some shots.
Yeah.
I know that one short elbow he threw in the second. That looked brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, even Till threw him one, too, which was a knockdown. And
caught him early.
Yeah. So
I thought that was it.
They were exchanging very well. And I thought once you get to the deep waters, though, Whittaker being a former champion, he's used to this.
Yeah.
He didn't really look too phased. Till, I think, started looking out of gas.
Yeah, midway through the fourth, you could definitely see the slowdown in Till's game.
Yeah. It wasn't like sucking wind and like, I got nothing left. But a little hitch in his step.
Yeah, it was definitely something that he needs to work on, and especially for him at that in the middleweight division, he is walking around at that weight. Maybe has a little more on him, trying to get some muscle. He's got to work on that cardio.
Yeah, I mean, again though, for him in this position, it's like, all right, you're moving up. And you're in the main event, so they allow it to be 5 rounds. that's a difficult position for a guy who's probably used to being, a little bit heavier and fighting 3. So it's a little bit of an adjustment. And, obviously when your gut piece is weighing you down. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, when you're fighting 5 rounds like that, it's got to be difficult on you from a mental standpoint because you're used to, putting the weight on and fighting 3. And then all of a sudden when you don't get that early knockout, now you're going 2+ more rounds. This is Whitaker, this is where Whitaker's comfortable because he's been there before.
Yeah. So Whitaker definitely took advantage of the situation, and that just goes to this championship mentality that he has. So not to say Till's not going to bounce right back, because Till will.
No, he performed very well.
Yeah,
he did. Adesanya, I know, had a tweet that said that he'd much rather fight Till than Whitaker, which, might just be a mental game, with Adesanya taking a shot at Whitaker saying you're not on my level. Or maybe he really just wants the challenge of Till because his hands are heavy.
Yeah, well, I think Till Adesanya is a definite box office fight.
Sure.
That one will definitely generate. Adesanya looking ahead of Paulo Costa, though, I don't think is a good idea, even though he's tweeting out there.
Well, Dana White clearly made that point that it's not happening yet. So let's not even pretend like it is.
As of yet, but the contract is all but said and done.
Dana made it very clear 2 weeks ago that it ain't happening.
Yeah, but I think, if what I was reading correctly, though, that contract is almost done. So that's going to get locked in. But Adesanya is not wrong for creating a little hype for that, because I don't know if he wants another part of Whitaker. Because Whitaker, I think, coming back for the belt is going to be hungrier. Yeah. And he's one of those deceptive fighters. He doesn't talk a lot of trash, but he's one of those guys, he can flip that switch on when he walks to the cage, and he's like, it's go time.
Well, the announcers talked about that, too, because Till came out in silence, and they were like, this is a mental game by him, coming out in silence. And then Whitaker came out to music, but apparently Whitaker normally, when he gets the Vaseline on, will,
he goes nuts.
Yeah, will go nuts. He was very calm this time, and they said, and then he gave one pre-fight yell, and they're like, this is definitely a different Robert Whitaker than what we've seen before.
Didn't they say Whitaker came out silent because he comes out to what? Sweet Caroline?
No, that's Till.
Oh, that's Till, okay.
Yeah, Till comes out of Sweet Caroline, but he's like, that song belongs to the people.
He's like,
so he came out silent. Whitaker came out, but wasn't yelling. It wasn't as hyped up as he normally was, which for what they were making it sound like on the play-by-play was, this is a new sign, this is a sign of calmness of a collective fighter versus a fighter who comes out, with all adrenaline, like a more cool, calm, and collective guy.
Yeah, which... Like I say, it was a great fight, and I think both fighters actually look good. Till even in defeat, because it shows he can hang in that division. That's one thing that I've always been wondering about.
Listen, that elbow at the end, almost that gash that Whitaker had on the left side of his head, if the ref could have caught a glimpse of it and actually see it, he was gushing blood.
Yeah, he might have stopped the fight.
That might have stopped the fight. And, they mentioned that again on the play-by-play, too, that he was very smart because after that cut, and Whitaker noticed it, he, started doing a little more grappling and held him up against the cage, and leaned the cut into Till's shoulder. Mm-hmm. So the referee couldn't walk around and see it and get that angle, and there was only 25 seconds left in the fight by the time the cut really started, bleeding.
Yeah.
So, that's just a veteran presence, too, because... Yeah, that was big-time blood.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely gushing all over the cage. You have to say, in kind of closing with about Fight Island, it lived up to the hype.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked about this as not a big UFC guy as you guys are from, back in the day. Mm-hmm. This definitely made me reinvest back into the UFC because it was the only game in town. And they did a great job with great fights, great cards, good opponents, and solid fights. Yeah, obviously there were some referee issues and some controversies.
The Herb Dean versus Dan Hardy thing.
Yeah, and there were some ups and downs. But, all the fights all in all were very, very good. So Fight Island, great success.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see them go back, even though I know the next fight is scheduled for the Apex.
Yes, the next couple are for the Apex.
Yeah, so Fight Island, though, I think definitely was a success. It can show they can do the international fights there. Still had that UFC feel into it, which I liked. Yeah. And it didn't take away too much. I thought it was going to be out on the beach. I thought it was going to be outside. I know they have the Octagon still set up there.
Outside, yeah.
Which maybe we'll see. I kind of hope not.
No, yeah, I don't want to see that.
Maybe a prelim could be out there. I don't want to see a main fight out there because the humidity would get sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would get just downright crazy out there.
Sweaty belly.
Yo, the Roy Nelson chokes out there. that could be very tough to watch. But quickly though, this weekend there is another UFC fight card going on. Saturday, August 1st. Like I said, they're going to be back in Vegas. Derek Brunson is taking on Edmund Shabazian. Shabazian is a middleweight contender, number 9 ranked. So, like I said, middleweight division's making some noise. What's very notable about this I saw the fight package, is Shabazian is trained by Ronda Rousey's camp. So
And that's not the only thing jumping out about him.
break it down.
He has an 11-0 record with 9 professional record, 9 knockouts, 1 submission, 1 decision. His fight record reads as follows: knockout, 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 split decision, knockout, submission, knockout. Yeah.
So
Good luck.
So, Coach, any feelings on this fight?
I mean, I'm just excited for another UFC card. I mean, I obviously these guys are going to bang, so it's going to be exciting. So I will be watching.
I kind of want to dig up, because I'm looking at his record, I kind of want to dig up footage of one of his fights. He fought a gentleman by the name of Anthony Thomas at Gladiator Challenge Fight Club in October of 2017. Knocked him out with punches 14 seconds into the first round.
I would believe it. I mean,
my Lord, I want to
thing,
find this.
The one thing they've shown, you can look, and I'll just kind of do some talking here. Shabazian, from what they showed, definitely looked like he can throw some hands, which was kind of weird seeing Ronda's camp with him, because I know infamously when Ronda was fighting Holly Holm back in the heyday, they were very much encouraging it, at least the perception is reality, for Ronda to strike with Holly, and that is mistake number 1. So hopefully they've learned a little bit from this. I would imagine so. Like I said, this guy has got a lot of hype behind him. Is he going to be the next Sage Northcutt, or is he going to be the next Chimaev? We don't know. I mean, the possibilities here are kind of up in the air. Brunson is no slouch in his own right, though. Like I say, number 8 ranked middleweight in the UFC. So it's going to be definitely a good main event. But I got to say, I got to like Shabazian. I can't go against him right now. I think it's going to be a second-round stoppage either way between him or Brunson. But I think Brunson's going to come in there with a little something to prove, because with all the hype that's behind Shabazian, it's going to be something he's got to use as motivation. Because I think if he sits there and is just kind of letting it happen, it's going to be a long night for him. I mean, that's just my opinion about that. Other fights on that card, though, Joanne Calderwood is actually not waiting for the flyweight title shot. Is taking on Jennifer Maia. That one is kind of a risky fight for Calderwood. I give her credit; she's not waiting around for a fight, but at the same time, it's you risk that chance of losing your shot. That's what Tony Ferguson did, taking the shot against Gaethje, and look what happened there. So anything really can happen in these situations. If she wins, well, it's another feather in her cap, and she's taking out another top-ranked contender. She loses, well, there goes your title shot. You got to rework for it. Calderwood, though, I do like in this fight, though. I really do. I think that her striking has just looked phenomenal at flyweight, so I expect a lot of really good things happening there. So it's going to be a fun night to get back to the Apex. Like I say, anytime the Apex, you can't take anything away from with Fight Island.
No. The UFC's done a great job. Like, honestly, because the first initial, when they were in the big stadium still running shows, it was dreadful to watch. It was just difficult. But now that they've gone to the smaller venues, the ability to not hear the crowd, I don't think takes away from the UFC as much as like wrestling, where they need that interactive fan base, because I enjoy being able to hear the corner guys. So I think that adds a dimension that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Pat, you seen that fight?
No, haven't been able to find the fight, so there unfortunately may not be footage of it. But hey, if you know of said footage that it exists, feel free to send it to us.
Yeah, send us on Twitter at ODParlayHour.
Because I really want to see that, because 14-second knockout with punches, woof.
Anything is possible in that. So
Anything is possible.
It's going to be a fun fight. And speaking of anything that's possible, we did get confirmation Khabib is going to be fighting Justin Gaethje on Saturday, October 24th. That's not the anything is possible part. I mean, granted, I'm excited for this fight. It's the comments that were made by Dana White after. And Dana has said that Khabib and his late father had already planned out that he was going to retire 30-0 if he got to that level. And Dana has agreed that if he gets through Gaethje, he can pick his final opponent, or he would have no issue with his final opponent. And the rumor going around, it is one George Rush St. Pierre.
No thanks.
And we have a reaction from said George Rush St. Pierre.
Oh, break it down.
So Ariel Helwani, noted writer for ESPN, tweeted out, quote, I asked George St. Pierre earlier today what he thought of Dana White now being open to Khabib Nurmagomedov fighting him in the future.
Well done, Pat.
Here's what he had to say. Quote, damn, just when I thought I'd have peace of mind. I look forward to watching Khabib and Gaethje fight in October. Best of luck to them. Close quote.
Your thoughts, Coach.
Ambiguous.
Uh-huh.
Oh, listen. I don't want to see how old is GSP?
I
at
will
this
look
point?
it up.
I mean, it's just I don't need to see 40-year-old guys coming out of retirement to fighting dudes like Khabib. You know what I mean? I don't have any interest in it. I would much rather see him fight. I don't know, move up a damn class and fight somebody in that division, or have a catch weight fight with somebody else, at a different weight. I mean, I don't want to see you fight somebody who's been past his prime for the last 5 years.
George, as of this recording, his birthday is in May. He is 39 years old.
Yeah.
So, Pat, let me ask you this. If you were matchmaking for the UFC and Khabib, if he gets past Justin Gaethje, which, I mean, let's not write off Gaethje just yet, who would you match him up with?
Connor. I realize he beat him. I realize, it was pretty decisive, but I'd still like to see that one more time. On the surface, I don't want to see him fight GSP because why? You're GSP. You're almost 40 years old. You're a two-time champ. You were whatever division champ for like 11, 12 years, whatever it was.
Your last fight did not look very good.
What do you have left to prove? The only reason I would see him coming and agreeing to do this is for the quick and easy monster. It'd be a monster paycheck.
Oh, it'd be huge.
Because Khabib, household name. GSP, household name. You're going to get a lot of eyes for people who might not normally buy a pay-per-view to buy that pay-per-view.
All right, so let me break down my thoughts on this. One, he better focus on Justin Gaethje because I like Gaethje in that fight against Khabib a lot. Like a real lot. If he gets through Gaethje, here's why he should not fight GSP. One, if the fans are going to get hyped up for this is going to be the most impressive grappling match you have ever seen. It's going to be 25 minutes of wrestling, which if you like it, great. But if you're expecting to see some crazy knockouts or submissions,
which is what people are going to expect,
you're not going to see it in this one. GSP will get up for this one, though. I will say I will never doubt the man's work ethic, and if he wants to get up and make a big payday with this one, it will happen. It'll be one of the biggest fights in MMA history, but I'm already telling you right now, temper your expectations. It'll be literally a grappling match.
Oh, yeah.
His last performance was a lay and pray.
Yeah.
That's GSP, though.
I know it's GSP, but I mean, this was bad lay and pray. This was snooze fest lay and pray.
And you're going to have that against Khabib too,
sure,
because that's all they're going to do. Which
I'll say to those mild fans, and every once in a while fans, don't if and I'm saying this with very large capital letters, if this fight happens, don't go in expecting Rock'em Sock'em robots.
No,
that's not going to happen.
No, this is going to be for the purists that
if
really
you
like to see that.
If you want to see that, buy the video game.
Yeah, it's not going to be something for highlights. It's going to be a lot of transitions, a lot of submission attempts.
It's going to be the footage that is shown in like every MMA training facility for like the next 50 years for guys learning how to be a wrestler.
Yeah, it's going to be a clinic tape. That's all it's going to be. So that being said, I don't want to see that fight. Plus, GSP is almost 40, and what's
what you got left?
What's the fire into him?
Seriously, yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah, he said he was happy with retirement, so let him be happy. I mean, it would be an honor for him, and I know there's a lot of respect between both fighters to do it.
Sure.
I just don't see it at this stage. I just don't. As for Conor, I don't think you do that fight either. I really think that is a done trilogy, or not even a trilogy.
It was one fight.
It's a one and done. I think that Conor needs to do the Nate Diaz fight for a trilogy.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Because I think that he will struggle again against Khabib's wrestling, and I just think it'll go the same way it did the first time.
Dare you?
Oh, I say it, and it's a repeat.
Dare you?
He will get ran through.
Not with this new shoulder move. Bam! Bam!
Is this like the Judas effects that Chris Jericho does?
That's right. It's a secret move. I mean, now when Khabib tries to tie him up and gets a little dirty boxing, bam! That shoulder's coming right to your jaw.
I still think it ends in 4 rounds if Khabib lets it.
Oh, 4 rounds.
Listen, some of us enjoyed watching Conor get his ass run through.
Hey,
this guy.
Oh, hey.
Well, you know what? He didn't get his ass ran through last time, so
I think the fight you make, and I know this will sound absolutely crazy considering what happened to him in his last fight, you make the Tony Ferguson fight.
no. Oh my God.
You make the legend fight.
He did it to himself.
We've discussed this. The only way you make that fight happen is if Khabib is going to fight somebody else, they get hurt, and then you plug Tony in.
Well, I'm just saying that's the fight everybody's been waiting on. That'll be the question unanswered for years.
I mean, but that's Tony's fault.
Oh, I know it is.
Well,
It
it's both parties' fault.
Well, sure, but I mean, this latest one's Tony's fault because he was supposed to beat Gaethje.
Yeah.
And didn't.
No.
Listen, one of them was they were also supposed to fight each other, and one blew his knee out tripping on a cord.
Oh, the fight's cursed. So
Yeah.
But it's always one that fans will always say, what if? So I think if you're going to choose somebody, that could be an option too. Or maybe, just maybe, Khabib goes up and challenges Usman.
Ooh,
Sure.
that'd be good.
I could see that.
That'll put butts in the seats.
Because if he goes out as a champ.
What? So, they're 170?
Yep, 170.
So, and Usman's 185?
No, they're both one. No, Khabib is 155. He go up to 170 and
Oh,
fight.
come on. Just make that happen. Let's do that.
See, that fight makes
Let's do that.
because I think with Usman's wrestling style,
Right.
it's very similar to GSP's. And I think Usman at this stage is a better fighter than GSP.
Well, he's got fucking way heavier hands.
Right. I think that that's more of a challenge. And I think that if you really want to do a super fight at this stage, it makes sense. The GSP one I get for the name. I understand.
Right, and
that.
I think there's probably a Khabib has the respect for the career that GSP has, given
tremendous.
the similar styles
Yeah.
that they had. So I mean, maybe that in some sort of like, I don't know what you would want to call it, scrimmage or some sort of like
If you want to do an exhibition for it, sure.
there's a good word for it.
But like I say, the GSP thing, it's big money, which I know the UFC will probably go with. But then again, GSP is, like I say, on that side of 40. He hasn't fought in many years. Granted, I wouldn't doubt him getting in shape. He would probably look amazing coming out.
Sure.
I don't doubt his work
He
ethic.
probably looks amazing right now.
Yeah. But he'll come in there, but at that stage, are you a step slower? Can you hang at that level, and do you want your legacy tarnished?
Well, not to mention, I mean, Khabib's hands are a lot better than they were, 3-4 years ago when maybe this fight would have worked.
Yeah, and George can throw hands too, but the thing is, he's up against Father Time.
Right.
That's why I say let him go out very quietly, and that's only if Gaethje doesn't do the job, which I'm telling you right now.
You're just trying to hype this fight up, Ken. We already know that Khabib's going to win.
I mean, you could say whatever you want. We're going to find out that open in October 24th since it's locked and loaded, but he's got to...
Well, I'll tell you one guy who's rooting for Gaethje. This guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, Gaethje, I think, is getting, hearing this, he's just getting more motivated. And the fact he's working with Usman and working on those hands.
Good. Listen to me, Gaethje. You've got no chance. None. Tape record this and put it in your headphones when you're working out because you've got no chance in hell.
It'll be a fun...
Khabib in the first round in 10 seconds. Submission.
Oh, wow.
Because you a bitch.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm just trying to motivate him.
Wow. You are wilding out today.
Hey, I'm just trying to motivate the man, all right?
At Coach Duffy 11
Listen,
on Twitter.
at Coach Duffy 11.
Obviously just kidding, Mr. Gaethje. I have utmost respect for you. I'm just trying to be the voice that, when you win, you can say, I was motivated by some schmo on a podcast who called me a bitch. And then that will be my crowning moment that I was the reason why you beat Khabib.
At Coach Duffy 11 on Twitter. And you will definitely debate this with you if you're listening. But we gave you a lot to discuss here on the UFC section of the ODPH this week. What is your thoughts about Fight Island? What is your thoughts about Whitaker versus Till? What's your thoughts about Khabib getting to pick his last opponent? Possibly Dana White will make the GSP fight happen. And what do you think about Coach Duffy's comments? We want to have that interaction. Hashtag ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Cito, a local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have got some local minute news to talk about.
What?
Yes, it was breaking that Excite Wrestling, shout out to Johnny Moose and Team Excite,
Yeah.
are going to be doing drive-up wrestling.
Okay.
So the card is scheduled for August 22nd. So they're going to be setting up the ring outside of their local venue at the Oakdale Mall here locally in the 607.
Very interesting. If you've ever been there before, the dynamics of that parking lot, it will be very interesting to see how they set it up exactly. Because there's ways that they can get some pretty good views, depending on where they put the ring in the parking lot.
Yeah, and if memory is serving me right, they're the only independent wrestling league that is allowed to do this in New York
They'll
State.
be the first show in the state.
That is according to Johnny Moose himself.
Yes, so it's kind of a big deal. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, and we know you are because we get tweeted a lot at OD Parlay Hour about it. So if you are able to watch it, because I believe they're going to be doing it on live stream as well, it's going to be something to definitely check out. I know they're live streaming
Last month or
the last live show that they had.
Last month. That was
so
like last year.
Time it blends together.
Yeah, so it blends together. But the last show they had at the X before COVID shut everything down, they're going to be live streaming this weekend.
Which is a tremendous event. Sean Carr with the moment of the night.
Oh, yes. Without
I'm not going to spoil it. Watch the show.
No, you'll definitely have to watch that. And like we said, Saturday, August 22nd, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The deal is all vehicle passes, first come, first serve, good up to 5 people of any age. Anything beyond 5 people are going to charge $15 per person. So everything that you need to know going on with this show, head on over to excitewrestling.com or just head over to the ODPH directory. You can go right to the Excite link that we have inside there on Friends of the Show, and it'll take you to all the information you need to go buy a ticket, go get set up for the stream, and go enjoy some local pro wrestling coming back.
But shout out. I mean, Moose has worked his tail off to get this event off the ground.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So shout out to him for putting in the legwork here to get this done.
Not
I mean,
quitting.
just not giving up. I mean, obviously, New York State, one of the most difficult states to work with from a commission to the rules that have been in place with the coronavirus. So his tremendous hard work and team, that's awesome.
Well, and also shout out to the folks that have been helping him out at the mall and at the local government level, because it's not a one-man job.
Absolutely not.
This has been building for a while, and we just got official confirmation of what we can say about this. So we're just super happy to see Excite get back in business and be able to give us a show. And it's going to be a new experience for us all.
Yeah.
We'll be down there. And like I said, bell time 4 p.m. The gates, wherever they're setting up, are going to open up at 2:30.
They will open the door, the bridge.
Well, I'm just wondering if they're going to have it. Well, I don't know the setup if they're going to have it blocked off and they're just going to be allowing like certain traffic to come through.
I got an idea where they're going to do it. The one end where Sears used to be, because that whole area is fenced off right now.
It could be. It could be. We will
I was thinking more like where the bottom of the parking lot is.
Oh, that could be.
It could be, but wherever the setup is going to be, we'll see. Maybe if Moose will let us know ahead of time, we can post some live pictures on the Instagram page so everyone can see.
Moose, if you're hearing this, do a little demo of what you're thinking the setup is going to be. I'm curious.
He does listen to the show. He is a subscriber. So, Johnny, if you want to come on the show and talk a little bit more in person, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Hey-o.
You know how to get a hold of us, so definitely make some plans. But like I say, if you are not in the 607 area and you want to see what's going on, excitewrestling.com for more information. It's time to round those bases and take the show home. Pad, what you got?
Got a little more wrestling news. All this one, to quote the recording artist Rihanna, is a work. Like what I did there?
Well done. Well done.
Adam Cole,
Bebe
was on the Pat McAfee show. God, what was it? Monday? Tuesday? Whenever the hell it was.
Early this week.
Doing an interview and got incensed. I haven't had a chance to watch a clip. I've just read what happened. Got incensed and pissed off at Pat McAfee. Said he gave up time to be with his family to come down here and be interviewed by him. How dare he say the things he did, that he only joined I believe he said he only joined Undisputed Era to become stronger for some reason. How dare he? And he stormed off. And all the wrestling fans watching this are going, "Oh, it's a work."
Tirade.
He was the tirade. That's Adam Cole in character.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people watching the show who are not wrestling fans are, "Oh my God, Adam Cole's pissed at Pat McAfee.
Adam Cole's a jerk."
I mean, let's not forget Pat McAfee, when he was on, filled in for SmackDown when half the roster couldn't get out of Saudi Arabia, did say live on air when Adam Cole came out, about they've feuded a couple times about him and his jorts.
Yeah.
So they've got a long running history if you're familiar with NXT and what's going on there. And then Triple H came on the show a couple of days ago, about a day or so later, tried to smooth things over. Oh, hey, listen, if you're in the area, you want to come on NXT, we'll have you on. We'll promote you like we always do. We'd love to have you on. Totally working the non-wrestling fans who are watching this who don't know Pat McAfee works for WWE and NXT.
Kayfabe, brother.
Yeah.
Kayfabe, brother.
It's all good fun if you're a wrestling fan, and it's definitely something to check out because I'd say it's Adam Cole at his absolute best.
Yeah, it reminds me, the first time I saw it, I talked about this on the wrestling show with Rich from 3FN. If you remember the Jim Rome, Jim Everett segment.
Oh, the infamous.
Yes.
Infamous segment.
This was a nice...
Talked about for years.
This was a nice homage, in my opinion, to that segment.
But this will have a payoff.
This is going to have
Hopefully.
a payoff in one way or another. Either McAfee's going to try wrestling, or my guess is he's going to try managing.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what he does. Having followed him on Instagram for a couple of weeks, about a month or so, dude does a lot of Stairmaster. Like that is like the only workout regimen he posts that he does at like varying levels. I believe the other couple days it's been like over 150 flights of stairs or whatever, however you measure it. But
A lot of stairs.
He does a lot of Stairmaster.
Hey, I mean, I won't put it past him. He's a physical ass. He was
That's
a tough
true.
ass kicker.
That's true.
And wasn't afraid to get in the mix. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to tangle it up.
Can you imagine if he brings in? Oh shit, I'm blanking on the name. He used to kick for the Patriots when he joined the Colts.
Oh, Vinatieri?
Hey, can you imagine if he comes with? Can you imagine if he was like, "Listen, I need some help. Let's make this handicap match 2-on-1," and he comes with Vinatieri.
I'm just waiting for the Peyton Manning vignette.
Oh my god, Peyton Manning's the ringside manager.
Kicker.
Yep, you'll see something like that happen.
Yeah.
But for overall, wrestling is setting up SummerSlam. They're talking
Yeah,
about...
they're already.
Yeah.
Yep, they're already talking about putting it on a boat.
I did read an interesting theory or possibility that we may be seeing, given the fact that all the belts Bayley and Sasha have, we may be seeing the resolution to the Stone Cold Triple H storyline that got dead. Because there was that story. I didn't know about this because I didn't watch wrestling back then, but there was a point in time where Triple H and Stone Cold had the tag belts, and then Stone
Two-man
Cold,
power trip.
Yep.
and then Stone Cold had the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Triple H had the Intercontinental Championship, but you never got to see the finality of that storyline because Triple H blew his what was it, his pec?
He blew his quad
He
out.
blew his quad.
Damn quad injuries.
There's a lot of theories and a lot of people thinking, maybe we're seeing that storyline here with Bayley and Sasha, and we may see how it plays out.
That.
I like that
I
idea.
hope that is true because that's fun.
Yeah.
The boat thing is nuts to me when I read that because I kept thinking back to when Jericho did the cruise, they filmed an episode of ROH that was broadcasted. And I mean, obviously, I don't want to slight Jericho and the cruise at all because I mean I'm sure it was the best that they could do given the fact that their production crew is limited versus what something like WWE can do, but it was tough to watch from a filming and production standpoint. So
well, they've done this with ROH and they did this with All Elite Wrestling too. They filmed the Jericho Cruise on there.
Right.
It's definitely tough production wise.
Yeah.
I just laughed that they're going to out Jericho Cruise, the Jericho Cruise, and do a pay-per-view on there. Granted, it's no fans and it's a different whatever, but just the fact they're going to try one-upping them.
Well, I just worry about just a logistical nightmare that is trying to do this on a cruise because, I mean, you got to think they're power sources. Mm-hmm. You got electric and cords and all this stuff. So, I mean, if anybody can pull it off,
I'm sure
it's going to be WWE because they have the ability to. It's just... I mean, it will be tough.
It's going to be tough, but if they're going to do it, they will come up with some really crazy thing. I don't know if it's going to get shot all cinematic. I hope not.
Yeah.
I like
somebody's going off the boat.
Oh, Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy will swanton off the top of the boat, and it's going to be like one of the most insane things you ever. It'll be all digitized, but either way,
it'll be a larger version of the Lake of Reincarnation.
Oh my God! I'm just trying to wrap my head around when that rumor broke because obviously they can't do it up in Boston this year,
right?
So that's the next going rumor that they're going to get on a cruise ship or boat and do the matches.
Well, why not?
I think if they do it, honestly, that probably should have been from Jump Street their idea.
Yeah.
I mean, think about from the quarantine standpoint.
Have some real fun with it. Work a deal with Disney and do it on one of the Disney cruise lines.
Well, or
real shot.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine imagine having a match with, like, I don't know, Cesaro and Nakamura versus, let's just say, the Usos or something, and all of a sudden, like, Goofy and Donald Duck come running through?
It'd be wild. I mean, the only time I can remember they've done something on a ship was the Lex Luger slamming Yokozuna on the battleship.
Yeah, but that was a docked ship.
So I imagine I don't think the ship will be moving. That's the only thing. I imagine it's going to be docked, but wait to see on that, because otherwise, like I said, it was a really slow wrestling news week.
Yeah.
So the Adam Cole thing, though, is very interesting, because I know we were getting hit on social media about that. And definitely sounds that. But, Coach, we alluded to at the beginning of the show, if we're going to talk lacrosse, we have to hand it to the guru.
Get your shot glasses out, because it's lacrosse time.
Hey.
The MLL wrapped up its season. As I talked about before, they did an abbreviated schedule as well. They ran a week long in Annapolis, which had some tremendous tough weather. I mean, they were talking temperatures upwards of on the field at 115.
Oh.
Cleats were melting. Due to the heat and the running.
Jesus.
So tremendous. But all in all, though, I mean, the production was what it was. Unfortunately, though, it was cut a little bit short due to players who were in the semifinal game going out and coming back and getting tested and positive for coronavirus. Mm-hmm. So the Chesapeake Bayhawks and the Philadelphia Barrage had to sit out their semifinal game due to the players testing positive. And the final was then pushed from the other semifinal of Boston versus Denver. Denver being the number 1 seed and heavy favorite, I would assume, going into the final, which was pushed to Sunday, which Boston came with and Boston actually had 3 players sit out due to, concern over safety, ends up pulling up the huge upset and beat the Denver Outlaws 13-8.
Wow!
In a big upset. So, a little unfortunate thing with I thought Chesapeake was going to come in and win. Lyle Thompson, arguably one of the best players in the world. Hoping that they were going to be able to pull that off, but unfortunately not so much. Then the PLL kicked off on Saturday. That is what had my attention during the UFC fights, with some great action. Last night, arguably, due to a weather delay, they had only played one game, which was the Atlas versus the Archers. That game ended in an 11-10 victory for the Archers, and arguably one of the best professional lacrosse games ever played, which drew over 300,000 plus fans on the Nielsen ratings. For you demo gods out there, that is a tremendous rating for lacrosse, given the fact that it was broadcasted at 9:45 Eastern time. 7 or whatever, 6 o'clock out west. So good for lacrosse, great. A little bit of a sad thing to end on. The World Games announced that they would not recognize the Iroquois Nation as a team going into the World Games for this coming year. So if you do, if you are a supporter of lacrosse, there are some ventures out there right now that are trying to help support the Iroquois Nation as far as getting into the World Games to be able to play their sport in the Olympics. So go check that out. I've retweeted a couple things. Support the Braid is one of the things that have been on Twitter for a hashtag. So, if you do have time to check it out, it's their game that we play that they should absolutely, as a sovereign nation, be allowed to play in lacrosse, especially if it's going to be in the Olympics. So it's just the right thing to do. So if you can find that and want to support, the links are on my Twitter account.
Definitely something to check out. Lacrosse is having a good time to shine right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's games all week for the PLL. Check your local listings. MBCN, I mean, obviously, like we talked about before, they're broadcasting a lot of the games on during the Olympic times. Mm-hmm. So if you have nothing to do, there's 2 games on tonight. There's one right now at 7 o'clock, another one at 9:30. That's the usual face-off times, with more games on NBC, being broadcasted nationally. So it's tremendous. As a kid growing up playing lacrosse, it's awesome to see, getting the national recognition that it deserves.
Absolutely. So definitely something worth checking out. Coach is always live tweeting about it. So if you want to hit him up for more information about lacrosse.
When I can stay up that late for some of these games.
But when he wakes up, he will definitely recap with you.
Oh, man, that game last night, I mean, as much as I wanted to watch that, I'm a big Atlas fan, and as much as I wanted to stay up to watch that game, 9:45 is just. I made it to halftime, and I had to go to bed.
It was tough. I tried checking out a little bit too.
Yeah, it was a great game. I mean, Grant Ament, the number 1 pick in the draft, arguably one of the best players in the world right now. Penn State, Big Ten records all across the board. Had a hell of a game. Brian Costabile, former Notre Dame player, number 2 draft, so it was number 1 versus number 2. Had a hell of a game too with 3 points. It was a great game, and they got more action tonight. I mean, they have the world's best players, so it's great to watch. If you never checked out the sport and you want to watch a game, these are the games to watch because they have the best players in the world.
Absolutely. So definitely keep that on your radar to check out. So I'm going to close out talking the return of the NHL.
Hey!
So the Stanley Cup road is officially kicked off this week. It's going to be a little different than years past, obviously, everything going on with COVID.
Oh, you don't say.
But, hey, we just got to clarify. So the games are going to be held up in Toronto and Edmonton, respectively, and it's going to be a little different with the playoff series. A lot more teams were invited to come dance for the Cup. It's going to be the round-robin series for the top 4 teams in each conference. So in the East, it's Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, and Philly going to do a round-robin for seeding for the tournament. In the West, St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, and Dallas. And the qualifying rounds for the other teams involved are going to be kicking off as well this Saturday as we talk, August 1st. And to break down the schedule, Saturday, August 1st, your number 11 Eastern's representatives, the New York Rangers.
Hey,
will be taking
let's
on
go.
The number 6 seeded Carolina Hurricanes.
Boo.
Yes, coach is right. Number 12 in the West, Chicago is taking on number 5 Edmonton, 3 p.m. The Rangers are playing at noon. All Eastern Standard Time. Florida, the number 10 seed in the East, is taking on the New York Islanders at 4 p.m. Montreal, the number 12 seed in the East, is taking on Pittsburgh at 8 p.m., the number 5 seed.
Both them.
Exactly. And number 9, Winnipeg in the West, is taking on number 8, Calgary at 10:30 in the final game of the day.
That's so late.
Yeah.
So I saw this on Twitter today. Shout out to the Flyers who purchased a billboard on the way to Scotiabank Arena. The billboard reads, and I quote, "Every shot you take, every save you make, I'll be watching you." And it is a photo of Gritty.
That's awesome.
Peeking over a ridge or like
I
a
hate the
countertop
Flyers,
or
but
something
that's
like
great.
That's funny.
So every team who drives down that road to the because it's on the way to the Scotiabank Arena, every team is going to see this.
So I love the way the NHL did this, by the way. We didn't really get a chance to talk about this, but I love this because mini playoff series, then into the playoff series.
Yeah.
It's excitement. There's nothing better than playoff hockey. The tradition, the passion that the players play with. So, just think about having 4 months off and then going right into a mini playoff series. These guys are going to be going 110% of the time.
Well, yeah, just because even looking at the schedule, too, we read over Saturday's games. Sunday is number 11 in the West, Arizona versus Nashville, number 6 in the West, 2 p.m. Flyers playing the Boston, so you're getting the first of the round robins at 3 p.m. St. Louis is taking on Colorado at 6:30. Columbus and Toronto, 9 and 8 in the East, they're taking on at 8 o'clock. And Minnesota and Vancouver, 10 and 7 in the West at 10:30. So they are literally kicking off every day. There's going to be hockey going from the 1st to the 9th.
Yeah,
least.
that's the way that you got to do it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be a hockey fan right now, I'm ecstatic. I know we don't talk a lot on here because literally it would just be Rangers talk.
Sure. That's all I would want to talk about, too.
Yeah, I don't like delving into too much because I'm not a Philly fan. I'm not a Bruins fan. I'm definitely not a Pittsburgh fan.
I specifically would like to talk 94 Rangers, but we can talk nowadays Rangers, too.
If we ever do Patreon, we'll just do the 94 season.
We should have done – that's what we should have done during COVID. We should have just recapped the 94 season.
Yeah, like I said, maybe we'll save it for Patreon. I know we've had people ask us lately about it, so we'll have to see. But going into the playoffs, gentlemen, is there any team that we think is going to really stand out? Anybody?
The Rangers.
Pad?
Rangers.
See, that's why we don't talk hockey.
There's nobody else that I want you. I got a buddy who's a Flyer fan who's really hyped that, they were obviously a top seed, so he's really excited for the potential that they have. But, just a young, scrappy team like the Rangers who were getting hot towards – that time in March, right before everything broke. So you got to hope that they carry momentum moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. This was supposed to be the rebuilding year, and then they were just on the cusp of getting the eighth seed.
They were fighting. They were scrapping right along, and they were getting hot.
The Breadman was looking good.
Yeah.
And we just re-upped for Kreider, too. So they have the pieces in place, and to get Henrique a cup on the way out.
All right, let's not get crazy.
Hey, I'm saying this. He has been very gracious about training the new goalies to take his place.
Sure.
And Igor is back from his car accident that he had beginning of the year,
Let's
too.
go.
So, not saying it's not possible for a Cinderella run, but if I have to make an early prediction, who's bringing home the cup?
Mind you, we only like the Rangers on this show.
Yes, we do.
Who are you going to pick?
If I can't pick the Rangers...
Oh, go ahead. Pick the Rangers. I'm not going to tell... Who am I to tell you no? This is your show.
This is very true. I do like Tampa Bay.
Rangers South.
Rangers South.
Rangers South, yeah.
To win it.
Okay.
And coming out of the West... coming out of the West, I like Colorado.
Okay. All right.
So I think that if it's not going to be Rangers, Colorado, it's going to be Tampa Bay, Colorado. Because it'll be like a Game 7 with Tampa Bay and the Rangers.
Rangers sweep, right? Just everything?
Oh, they sweep until they get to Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Tampa Bay will slow them up a little bit.
Rangers light.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's Rangers. Callahan could get a trophy. He's not there anymore.
No, he's not there anymore.
Either way, that's my early prediction for that. But it's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited to see some hockey. I'll definitely be trying to live tweet best I can, but usually I get too wound up during a Rangers game, and I just usually wind up throwing my phone somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're playing before 9:30, I can stay awake. I'll watch.
Well, they're kicking off the Saturday lineup.
Except I'm a Ranger jinx, so I probably won't watch. Ken, I shit you not, dude. I tune on a Ranger game, and the other team scores a goal. A perfect example. Watch puck drop for a Winnipeg game, right? Mm-hmm. Opening seconds, 10 seconds in, Winnipeg scores a goal. Aaron comes in the room. Sean, what are you doing? I'm watching the Rangers. Why? There's nothing else on. I wanted to watch a little hockey. She saw the score 1-0. Turn it off. They ended up winning 3-2.
Well,
I can't watch the Rangers. I can't do it. It's a shame.
Well, get your playoff watching out this week on Wednesday, July 29th, when they're taking on the Islanders on an exhibition game.
Which leads into a PLL game, in case you want a little transition there. Segue back. But yeah, no, I'll watch the exhibition because those don't matter.
Yeah, get it out of your system now.
Yep.
Don't even jinx the team.
I just watch the 94 games because I can't affect those.
Fair enough.
Not wrong.
Either way, it's great to see hockey back. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Who is your prediction to bring home the Stanley Cup? If it's
not the Rangers, don't tweet us.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that.
Because we don't want to hear it.
No.
You're wrong.
In the blue shirts we trust.
You're wrong.
No quit in New York.
That's right, yeah.
I forgot that's the new slogan this season.
Okay.
It's no quit in New York.
Oh, yeah, I saw the Knicks tweet that for them too, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the new thing. So.
Except, I mean, there is a quit if you're the Knicks because they weren't even invited. But
I was surprised you didn't mention for closing Tom Thibodeau.
Oh, my God, we didn't even talk about that.
I thought you were bringing it up for...
Shit.
We got some time.
Fucking Ken, Tom Thibodeau is your new coach.
It's a huge move.
I call him, what's the guy from Minions? Groot? Groot?
Grout.
Grout, I think.
Yeah, he looks just like the guy from Minions. It's nuts. I was more towards Kenny Atkins, and then Jason Kidd were kind of my 1-2 because I liked the player development that Kenny Atkins can do, also the team building that he can do. Obviously, the wins-losses aren't there, but, he took a bad net team last year with D'Angelo Russell and, spare parts and brought them to the 7th or the 6th seed last year, turned Spencer Dinwiddie into an all-star. So, he would have been great for an RJ Barrett to develop. Jason Kidd obviously would have led to the rumors of Giannis coming in 2022. So we could have hopped on that train again and had relived that whole story. Josh would have made fun of us because we would have said Giannis is coming and then not. So that would have been great. But Thibodeau was my third option. Obviously should have been a Knicks coach years ago. But, things didn't work out. Had a bad run in Minnesota. But that was a young team that was not ready for that style of head coaching. I think he obviously had hopefully matured a little bit and realized and changed and evolved a little bit like Tom Coughlin did with the Giants as he went back into coaching after his stint in Jacksonville to learn the younger player, to connect with them. So I think he'll be great for RJ's development. Defensively, they're going to be stout.
Yeah.
That's something that you won't have to worry about. There's talks that, the reason why Tom Thibodeau was picked the head coach was because the Knicks wanted specifically for him to bring back Mike Malone, as an assistant coach who was the interim head coach who, again, a guy who's tagged as being great at player development, and Mike Woodson. So potentially Mike Woodson will come back, who had a great run here as a Knicks head coach, during some of the mellow years. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited. as I always am, because I'm, what's the definition of insanity? Repeating yourself over and over again, thinking for a different outcome. So Tom Thibodeau is going to save the Knicks. Something, we're going to sign an all-star, and things are going to turn around. I mean, Zach LaVine's rumored to be in the mix. So Tevin Booker is also rumored to be in the mix. So I don't know.
I'm just going to say this. I thought the signing was a big move. With everything that our new president is doing.
Yeah.
Has been good so
Leon
far.
Rose. Yep.
Leon Rose has done a great job thus far. I know it's early, so I'm not counting my trophies before I hang them in the banners.
Sure. They've made a lot of smaller moves, too, that people haven't really been talking about besides, like, guys in the NBA, like, in the know. Like, they've signed a lot of, like, analytic guys that people haven't really touched upon that are, like, next level type style coach, like, not coaches, but player personnel, general manager style guys that, take things to the next level. So that will be interesting to see because the Knicks are always so old school, with their player development and scouting and stuff. So, like, to see the analytics start to come over, it'll be interesting to see, like, what they do with that.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm not counting my banners before I hang them in the rafters. I said trophies, but, honestly, talking winning in New York is, like, throwing me off that we're slowly looking maybe.
We're doing it again.
I know.
You are.
I know. We need
Josh,
help.
Zion's coming to New York with KD and Kyrie. And you
Stop
went
us,
0 for 3.
Josh. Stop us.
You went 0 for 3.
Hey, we got RJ Barrett. I'm a Nick.
Yeah, yeah we got something.
Yeah.
We got the potential.
There's hope.
There's hope.
There's always hope.
There's always hope at the end of
I just hope he doesn't run RJ Barrett into the ground by playing him 42 minutes a night.
To quote Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, there never was much hope, just a fool's hope.
Oh,
Wow.
dude, come on. Why can't you let us have this?
Pat doesn't want to let us. He's just hating.
Yeah.
He's just
Come
being angry.
on.
I could have swore you're bringing this up for.
I should have. I didn't even think about it. I completely escaped my mind because it happened on Saturday, and it was like, whoosh, it was not talked about. The only thing that I kept thinking about was RJ Barrett being left off of Zach Lowe's NBA first team All Rookies, which is preposterous.
Yeah, that's
how dare you?
It's egregious.
Be a writer and say that RJ Barrett doesn't even make your second team when he was arguably the most consistent Knick of the season.
I think you got distracted by Darren Till's cup. It's completely warped.
It completely escaped. I didn't even think about Tom Thibodeau, your new New York Knicks head coach. Long time coming. Jeff Van Gundy, loved the hire.
Yes.
I would have loved Jeff Van Gundy to be hired, but here we are.
But hey, if he signs on Thibodeau, I'm there.
Reggie Miller loved the signing. So all these old guys love it, so I'm going to love it.
Definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH to continue that conversation.
Melo might come back.
Let's not get too carried away right now.
I'm just saying, there was rumors he wants to retire as a Knick. Let it happen.
Don't get my hopes up too much.
Or maybe Skinny Melo. Not even Hoodie Melo. I hope we get Skinny Melo.
Yeah, I hope we get motivated Melo.
I hope we get out of here. I got the rebound. That's the Melo I want.
It's a dream. Let it happen.
Zach LaVine! Zach LaVine!
You're doing it again.
That being said, the music you heard on this episode of the ODPH podcast is that of Fair City Fire. They're our friends out of Austin, Texas, or wherever they're from. Yes, they are from Austin, Texas. Brian Wolf is doing so much music now, I'm just trying to track down if he's traveling around or he's just playing outside. Either way, you can find out all you need to know about Fair City Fire, Shout at the Robots, Floodlands, Second Suitor, and a whole bunch of other great bands on the ODPH music section found on OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Also on the ODPH webpage, you can check out the ODPH directory, which has friends of the show, such as Tom from Off the Cuff Gaming, Excite Wrestling, organizational links supporting Black Lives Matter, voter registration, and all the Podchaser lists that you need to know that our friends, our colleagues, our compadres involved in many, many pod groups. So shout out to hashtag 607 Podcast. Shout out to Legion of Independent Podcasts. Shout out to Alternate Reality Radio. Shout out to Pod Nation. And shout out to the Apocalypse, who is doing a pod raid as we speak right now. Big things going down. And, of course, shout out to Rich Ron and hashtag Big Nay Cool. our friends over at 8122 Productions. A lot of things going on over there. A lot of streaming happened this past weekend on Twitch, so definitely continuing that. Might be something going on this weekend as well. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what we're going to do. It's during the Ranger game, so I don't know how effective it's going to be, but we'll see. But definitely check out what they got cooking over there, and especially check out their Patreon, patreon.com/8122 Productions. All of this and so much more can be found on OchoDuroParlayHour.com. That's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Padawanje.
Thank you and good luck.
For your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Gimmick infringement. Good night and see ya.
I'm your host, Ken M. Let's go Rangers. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.